Welcome aboard Flight 1969, service to JetNation Radio.
Look at what a leader this guy is.
Bolt is fighting for his job this year.
This is what quarterbacks are made of.
Doug Middleton get a 50-yard onside kick. How stupid can you possibly be making that much money?
Folks, grab a snack.
Let's go eat a goddamn snack.
And join Joe Blewett and Glenn Naughton for JetNation Radio.
And you are listening to another edition of JetNation Radio, the 8th edition of the watchable YouTube version. But we are not joined by Glenn Naughton. This week we are joined by contributor to the show, our good friend, Kyle Smith. Kyle, what is up, my man?
Joe, doing good, man. How you doing?
Good. I'm just telling you, I'm cold as hell in my basement right now because it's like 16 degrees in New Jersey, and I don't have a great heating system down here, so I'm freezing a little bit. I just got done with my Jets film last night. Busy week, obviously, with Christmas and all that stuff for all those people who believe in that stuff out there. So, I didn't have enough time to really get a show done last night, so now I'm doing it today with you. Sorry, 12. What is it? 12:05, 12:13, whatever it is. But excited to talk to you. I'm sure you have a lot to get off your chest with watching the Jets for the last couple of weeks. You've been MIA in the Twitter sphere and on the show for a little bit, so I'm sure you are excited to share some of your Jets opinions.
Yeah, man, on my favorite show too. So let's get started, shall we?
Yeah. As always, you can call in. If you're listening live, actually you can't listen live, so the only way you know how to call in is on Twitter, but I'll say it anyway. You can call in at 1-669-900-6833. The PIN is 989-311-8641. Then you hit pound. If you're just calling in via video, it's just 989-311-8641. You can check me out on Twitter at JoeRB31. I just did the film review. I was a little bit lazy this week, like I said, because of Christmas and all that stuff. So I only put up like 38 plays instead of like the usual 50. So I was a little bit of a bum. Like I said, JoeRB31. Kyle's on Twitter, AFC East Bros. Kyle, is there anything that you've done in the last couple of weeks or any podcast appearances as a guest or anything like that you want people to check out? 'Cause I know there's some podcasts that will get you on as a guest. So
No, not really. I mean, because, some of the AFC East shows, like I would go on. I mean, I went on Bills ones and Dolphins ones earlier in the year, but we haven't played those teams in quite a while, so it's been a while for that. But last evening I did go on another Jet podcast. I don't know if I'll even
the Jet take, because you guys were fighting on Twitter and you guys were mentioning me and I was not even getting involved. I was just liking stuff and then throwing out some things that would piss both parties off. So you called into the show, and how did that go?
Well, you and we have conversations back and forth all the time about our opinions on the Jets and things like that. And, I think something so simple as my opinion on Buster Skrine. I mean, how crazy is this, man? Someone has a terrible take that Buster Skrine should be playing boundary corner. That is Ben Blessington. Although when I went on last night, he said, no, that wasn't the case, even though his text said anything but I'll take his word for it. On the surface of it, though, he has a take. Buster Skrine's better on the outside, or he should be playing on the outside. Or if the Jets are only running two corners out there, he should be on the field. And I say, no, Skrine should never, ever be on the boundary, because I hate Buster Skrine. And all of a sudden, Ben says, you've had some terrible takes over the year. I have more takes than you. One of your biggest misses was you said Skrine was better on the boundary, on the outside. I never, ever said such a thing. I said he's garbage anywhere he is. One thing I did say about Skrine, and this is maybe where Ben is misconstrued. I told him I was going to get him some Q-tips for New Year's as a New Year's present. But I said, I don't know where Jets fans got this idea that Buster Skrine is good in the slot. And maybe he interpreted that as me saying, oh, Skrine's better on the outside. But I never said such a thing. He's jumping to conclusions based on something else that I said. So anyway, I went on there last night and I kind of got on him. He wrote some very lukewarm article in which he said 6 reasons why the Jets will be better in 2017. And one of them was Christian Hackenberg. And then when he goes on to explain, he says, well, Hackenberg's either going to be good and the Jets have their franchise QB going forward, or he's going to be bad, and then you have to draft one. I mean, what a lukewarm take. You say you give an article, 6 reasons why the Jets will be better, and then you say then you go in your explanation, you say, well, maybe they'll be better for this reason. So I kind of got on him about that. But he says apparently I misconstrued what he was saying about that anyway. But no hard feelings between Ben and I. But I did do that last night. And if you want to hear that, the first couple minutes of the Jet Take, the first 20-something minutes or so, I'm on there and doing that. But anyway, that's enough about me.
I'm sure that was fun because you don't like to be called out and you get angry. And I know you're a very calm person, like I said, like 2-3 weeks ago. But I'm sure that if people get on your takes and call you out, that you get angry. I still see that side of you, Kyle Smith. You're never going to hide it from me. But no, Ben's a good kid. They're both good kids at the Jet Take, so check them out. I'm fine with calling their show out. That's completely fine. Even though you just trash Ben a little bit, but then people maybe will go and listen to it, so I'll get them a listener too.
By the way, we spoke after the show, and we're cool. And I said, maybe I misrepresented him on Hack a little bit, and he apologized for misrepresenting me on screen.
Oh, why would you say that, Kyle? You can't say that. That's not good for shows. You just got to say that you guys hate each other and all this stuff, and then people will check it out. But now that you guys are friends, nobody's going to want to see it.
Hey, listen, I mean, it's not going to change what was recorded on there if you like a good back and forth or whatever.
Yeah. But so obviously this week the Jets lost 14-7 to the Chargers at MetLife Stadium. These games are, I find it, I don't know about you, Kyle, but they're particularly hard to evaluate, especially the offense when the quarterback is so bad. It's just hard to evaluate how well the receivers are doing, how well the offensive line is doing because they're stacking the box. So we're going to go over it the best we can. I pulled up about maybe 20 plays. We go over them a little bit quicker than you guys used to do on AFC's throws, especially in the suds and duds. I definitely got a lot of videos, but we'll go over all of that. This week in terms of reviews, we got one rating, which was a 5-star rating. We didn't get any reviews. Like I've said many times, please write us a review. Give us a 5-star rating. It really, really does help the show out, get out to more people, which in turn, maybe helps us out getting better audio. Maybe I get a backdrop. Maybe I get a better mic. Maybe Glenn gets a better mic. Maybe you can do multiple shows a week. You never know. So reviews do help. Let's see. Is anything else? The sponsor. Always got to do the sponsor. OddsShark. OddsShark is your one-stop shop for the latest betting resources, information, and odds you can trust. Get expert sports coverage and detailed matchup predictions straight from OddsShark supercomputer. Looking for statistics and trends on an upcoming game? OddsShark has that too. And best of all, it's free. The experts at OddsShark provide in-depth analysis for each game, packed with stats, numbers, and trends that will help you make sharp pick on game day. Before the next Jets game, head on over to www.oddshark.com. That's ODDSSHARK.com and start playing like a shark today. Last thing, you can get us on YouTube, obviously. Like I said, we get thousands of listeners. Not that many people are going on YouTube, but for the people who do go on YouTube, I'm sure that you enjoy it. Maybe it'll take them a little bit more time to transition. Obviously, I know it's a lot easier to listen to your car or the gym or at work than watching it on YouTube. I know it's much more difficult. So, but if you have the chance, search Jet Nation, hit subscribe, and then watch it on there. And then you can see my face, you can see Kyle's face, you can see Glenn's face, you can see the plays that we're talking about instead of just having to listen. But Kyle, let's get into it.
Hey, Joe, to your point, you're talking about, maybe getting a backdrop, maybe getting a better microphone, and all that's well and good and stuff. It's about more than just getting that. Like, if you could also make a decent amount of, coin doing this, well, you could, not only could you continue to put out what you're putting out, which, by the way, I mean, I just have to say, in terms of Jets film evaluation, you're the GOAT right now on Twitter. There's nobody better. And I don't even need to go name some names or whatever, because that's not advantageous, but you're better than all of them. You could tell that you watch it more. You spend, I don't know if you want me to say it, but anywhere from like 10 to 20 hours a week breaking down film, posting it up there and stuff. And people don't realize how much of a benefit that is. I've been very behind on my film breakdowns, but I have you in the loop to keep me abreast with that. And that is a tremendous service to people. You're educating people like no other. Just the little nuances when you're pointing out what a certain technique that somebody's in or personnel that they're in or a certain concept. People go and look that up, and you wouldn't realize how much more about the game that someone learns. And right now, there's nobody out there doing it better than you. And when you look at some of these guys out there who are paid writers, paid podcasters, whatever, they're making some money off of it. And somebody should pick you up and start paying you for this because, you're doing this right now, not really taking all that much in. But if you start getting more, you can continue to put out even better content. So, JetNation Radio listeners, Joe didn't know I was going to say anything like this. I'm coming on here. He's a friend. Yes, he is. But part of the reason he's a friend and I have this level of respect for him is because he does damn good work. And if you guys want to see him continue to improve the show and get better, this is how free market capitalism works, ladies and gentlemen. Support those that are doing good things and you will continue to get a better product. It's a beautiful thing. So anyway, support the man. Subscribe, at least give a 5-star rating. I mean, that's not going to cost you anything, but it does help out. You don't understand how much it does help. I'm a former podcaster and, I kind of know how podcasts work and how they get ratings and how they get up in charts. Anybody who listens to any Jets podcast, Jet Nation Radio should be the first thing that pops up because this is by far the most educational podcast. Patronize the man, give him a 5-star rating and review, subscribe on YouTube, retweet his damn stuff, and I don't know, give him a shout out, because this is, I'm telling you, you guys really benefit from his work. Anyway, so I'm sorry.
I promise to our listeners that I did not pay Kyle Smith to do that, but in turn to Kyle Smith too. Kyle did the AFC Express podcast. I'm sure that a lot of people who listen to that as well because he came onto my podcast all the time, and Kyle's one of the best too. So obviously we're friends, but we're friends because of football. If Kyle was one of those guys who said, "Oh, Hackenberg's going to be good," and this, our relationship would probably become a little bit more tense, and we wouldn't be as good of friends. But one of the reasons we are good friends is because we both have I'm not going to say a deep understanding of football, because we've talked about it too. The more you learn about football, the less you actually feel like because there's just so much to learn. It's not just, oh, that was a good play. Okay, why was it a good play? What technique were they playing in? What concept was it in? What concept works versus this coverage? So I can talk to Kyle about that stuff. And that's why we're such good friends. So Kyle says I'm a good podcaster and a smart dude. Kyle is just as good, if not better. But hey, if, like you said, if you do give us reviews, we start getting paid for this, and I can start doing this couple days a week and start evaluating quarterbacks and college film too and this and that, dude, I would do it in a second. So
yeah, listen, Joe, you reveal things about your personal life every now and then. Listen, Joe's going into the police academy soon, so naturally he's going to have a little bit less time and stuff, and naturally something's going to have to give. But if he's still taking in a decent amount from football, he can continue to devote his time to that. So just saying, guys, make it beneficial for him. You should also consider, Joe, and we'll talk about this actually offline, something you could, anyway, let's move on.
Yeah. Make some money on the side or get big enough and I don't have to work as a cop and I can do this. Hell yeah.
Here, you know what I'm going to say right now. Joe, who knows whether or not this will happen, but you can talk about it more next episode. But I'm going to suggest to you that you start a Patreon page. I don't know if you know what that is. Patreon is basically people who they support creators for doing good work. So they could pay you like per episode or a monthly rate, $5, $10, whatever. And you could choose to maybe give them something in return, like maybe I don't know, or nothing, but it's just a way for them it'll automatically deduct. It's like a monthly donation, basically. It's them saying, hey, listen, I love the work that you're doing. Here's some money. And a lot of people make some good money on Patreon. And we might have spoken about this before, but I'm suggesting Jet Nation Radio, the work that Joe does, he spends a lot of time doing this stuff. And if he gets compensated, he can continue to put out better stuff. So that's my suggestion to you, sir. Anyway, but
yeah, it's always something we can consider. But let's get into football. That was about 15 minutes of 10, whatever minutes of whatever. But yeah, like I said, I appreciate the kind words as always. Kyle, you listen every week, obviously. I used to listen to you every week too. You know how we do it here. When the Jets win, we do studs. When the Jets lose, we do duds. So start off with your number 3 dud, Kyle Smith. You are the guest, and Glenn always goes first anyway because I think it makes it easier on me. So
number 3 meaning, and when you say number 3, you mean like he's not the worst of the worst, but he's still on the duds list, or is it in any particular order?
Well, no. 3 is the third or the lesser of the 3 studs. So 1 is the worst, 2 is the second worst, obviously. Then 3 is the least of the 3, or the lesser of the 3.
Okay. It was a little bit harder for me to find studs. I feel like by and large it was an okay game. I mean, there was really one particular dud that stood out to me. But I'm going to go ahead and say Austin Seferian-Jenkins. I'm going to put him as a dud. And I know it's not all his fault, but I think body language does a lot. And just playing the game of football, when you have those he's supposed to be a positive guy, right? Like that's what he's kind of like going off of on Twitter now and stuff like, oh, I'm positive and for 340 days, the best gift that I could ask for. And I understand that Petty kind of sucks and it's a reason to dip your head and stuff. But in terms of on-field production, he never brings it in the run game. I didn't see him do anything particularly, in the passing game. But then the body language and stuff, that feeds on your other teammates and stuff. And we know Bryce Petty sucked, but, for those reasons, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put him in the duds.
Yeah, he definitely body language. There's multiple times where Bryce Petty missed him. One where he was splitting, not even a double team, but he was just splitting two defenders in the zone. I forget what the zone was.
Would you pull that? You're talking about in the end zone, right?
Yeah.
Could you pull that play up? Because I was looking at it, I was, and I really seldomly disagree with you, but I don't think that would have been a wide open touchdown like you were saying.
Yeah, and hold on, I just want to pull up something else as well, and just we'll talk about ASJ for a little bit right now. But he was saying something on Twitter, and I forget who it was by, but he was saying that he needs to get more than $6 million, or he's expecting more than $6 million in free agency. I was just going to ask you, since obviously, like I said, you're a respected guy, and I appreciate your opinion. What do you think his contract is looking like if the Jets want to sign him? And on the screen, I pulled up the 2018 contracts and how much value they're getting. Not necessarily sure what the salary cap value versus cash spent technically means. But I'm going by salary cap value, and he said he wants more than $6 million. So where do you think he falls? That's Deion Sims, Martellus Bennett, Jason Witten, Julius Thomas type of range. Delaney Walker, who I think is much, much, much better than him, is at $7 million. So where do you think he should fall around? Because people like to say how great he is, and yeah, listen, if he had a better quarterback, sure, he would have gotten more yards and more opportunities, and yeah, he could have been used vertically more. But at the same time, say what you want about the Patriots game with that fumble out of the end zone, I think it's a bullcrap call. But at the same time, if he doesn't bobble that ball, there's no question he dropped that ball versus. Was it the Buccaneers where it dropped in the back of the end zone? I think it was the Buccaneers. Was by the rule book. That's not a completed catch. You can say what you want if you think it is a catch or not a catch. You have to change it in the rule book. By the NFL rule book, it's not a catch. He didn't catch the ball. He also dropped another wide open one that game. So he's been okay. And people are saying, "Oh, Pro Bowl if he had a better quarterback." I don't agree with you. I think he's an average, if that, tight end. He's okay receiving tight end, and he can't block that well. So where does he fall?
Yeah, I mean, would I resign him for $6 million? I guess I'd be okay with that. I wouldn't love it. But if you're comparing him to some of these other guys like Julius Thomas is garbage. Rudolph, what has he really done? Fleener, what has he really done? I mean, I think it's fair compensation, especially when you compare him to what was the alternative for the Jets. The Jets have money to spend this year. And when you consider what you've had over the years compared to him, he's head and shoulders above them. But the problem is if you start to put a price tag like that on him, you better start using him more. Use him in a bigger variety of ways. But for some people to say, oh, he's a must resign, just get it done. If you have that type of mentality that you're going to sign this guy no matter what, and then you're going to start to go up to $7, $8, maybe $9 million annually for 1 year of production, listen, he's on his best behavior this year. He knows that this is really his last shot, because if he were to go and screw up again this year, nobody would ever sign him. He would just be that guy that, he went to a different team and, he just fall into the same mistakes. But, so he's going to be on his best behavior this year. So if he goes and, he gets a contract, he could, turn into, I don't know, turn into a douchey type of person or whatever. But anyway, I'm not saying that I think that's the case, but what does he really bring on the field? Yes, if you compare him this year to last year, he's much more sudden and quick in his movements, but I think generally he's still pretty stiff-hipped. He has more speed this year, but he's not like one of those tight ends that really is going to stretch you vertically, and I think that's part of the reason why the Jets haven't done that. But the reason why I would like to see him get more shots down the seam is he does have a really good knack of high pointing the ball, and he's got good height. So when you factor in those long arms, the fact that he does catch with his hands. He can catch some seam passes over the middle, but he's not going to stretch you vertically with his speed. He brings you nothing in the run game. So, yeah, $6 million, I could do that, but I'm not going to go. If you get into a bidding war with somebody over it, let him walk. Please let him walk. And that'll help factor into compensation picks. So, this is the play that we were talking about. And I'm trying to remember exactly what you said in your tweet.
Yeah, I think this is either like it's hard to tell because this corner actually comes over top, like he's in a cover 2, but I'm not sure if they're in cover 2 or cover 4 because he throws the ball so quickly. But they're either in cover 2 or cover 4. So these two linebackers one of them might be a defensive back, or both in intermediate zones, hook zones, whatever you want to call them, depending specifically on what they're tasked to do. But here he splits 2 defenders, and Petty doesn't really give him enough time to get open. He sees 2 guys who are going to body him up, get physical with him. He's obviously a 6'6" tight end, and that you can't really see the. I don't know why I just fast forwarded 2 times, but you can't really. It's hard to see the ball. You can see the ball right there. If he throws that ball literally maybe a quarter of a second later, or he throws a little bit lower and anticipates the contact, like he throws the ball like he's not anticipating any contact from these defenders. Where if he just waits a second with plenty of a clean pocket, resets, throws a pump, whatever it may be, and he waits and just throws the ball, like I said, a second later, or not even a second, a quarter of a second later, or he throws in a better spot. That's a touchdown right there. He got both past both those guys, and call what you are wide open what you want. But when you're beating this guy, he's 6'6", and this safety's over here, and this safety's over here. Both maybe, I don't know, let's just say 8 yards away each on each side. I would consider this a wide open touchdown.
You know what? On second look, because the first time I watched this, I watched it on my phone, and it's a lot smaller to see the people. And like here, there's clearly more space. I mean, listen, nobody gets wide open in the NFL. I know that on a wheel route he was wide open this game, but you're not going to get much more wide open than that. So yeah, if Petty does wait a little bit and assesses the leverage a little bit better,
yep.
He could notice that. But, the dude has no pocket presence. And, when we get to him, we're going to talk about how he doesn't know how to slide in the pocket.
Oh, we'll get to him. Trust me. Because he is beyond bad. And even with ASJ too, like, and I've said this many times, Colin, you've heard me say this many times on the podcast and even in person. When we talk, it's every NFL player is going to make a good play. Just like when I talked about Austin Seferian-Jenkins in his pass and his run blocking, he makes some plays. He'll throw a crack block. He'll knock somebody on their ass every now and again. But it's about consistency, and Petty will make a good play or two. Kyle, you commented on the play I put up where he hits Curse on that dig between 2 defenders. It's a nice play. He's an NFL quarterback. He's better than anybody you've ever seen in real life. I'm saying play with in high school, college, or whatever. He's 10 times better than anybody you've ever seen. But I'm talking about bad in terms of consistency at an NFL level. Because I hate when I talk about this player's bad, and people are like, you have those jackasses who will be like, oh, he's a lot better than you. I'm like, no crap, he's better than me. I'm talking about relative to where he's playing. I know Bryce Petty's a better player than I would be in the NFL. I wouldn't complete one pass probably. So but nonetheless. Yeah, Austin Seferian-Jenkins, I didn't really put him in my negatives or positives. There was many times where I think he could have had a better game because Petty did miss him. Multiple times he was on a hitch and he drifted a little bit to the left to find a soft spot in the zone where Petty missed him on the wheel route, missed him on that play. So I think ASJ got open a decent amount, but at the same time he gets knocked for, like you said, the body language, which people are just saying, oh, that doesn't matter. If I was – and I hear this a lot from younger kids too. Oh, well – if I was getting missed all the time, I would be pissed. Well, guess what? That's why you're not an NFL player. It's a different world. But regardless, my number 3, I'm actually going to give it to Adams. And Adams has been having every other couple games. It's like one good game, one bad game. And I've said it before too, where I think he's going to be a really good player. But this year he's definitely having his struggles at times where he'll flash. And then the next play, he's just not playing consistently, I guess is the word. And this one, I'm going to share a couple of plays. And this one, I'm not going to really blame him for. It's just he let up a touchdown. So it is what it is. He's on man coverage against let me move my little screen here. I don't know if people can see that. He's on man coverage right here in the slot, or, he's Gates is a Y. He just flexed out a little bit. So some people call that a Y. Some people call that a Y flexed out. Some people call that slot, depending on which brand you follow. But this is a hard play for Adams to make. Obviously, he's on man. Gates gives him a little bit of shimmy at the snap of the ball, gets Adams to react a little bit outside, hesitate, which gives Gates the inside leverage, and this is a Hall of Fame tight end. Completely boxing Adams out, extending his arms to make the catch. This is a hard play for literally any defensive back in the NFL to make. Kyle, quick thoughts on that. It's just, I didn't kill him for this. I said this on Twitter. It's a Hall of Fame tight end making a Hall of Fame tight end type of play, knowing how to use his body, boxing. This is literally the definition of boxing somebody out. So, not going to kill him for that, but we'll bring up some other plays too.
Yeah, but not kill him, but I think it's warranted to give a good amount of criticism too. I mean, listen, yes, Gates is a savvy veteran, and Gates clearly wins, not with physicality on this play or athleticism for that matter, but he wins with, his veteran savvy. Let me bait him outside, open up his hips, and then turn him inside. But if you're Adams, then listen, you got some of the longest arms in the league for a safety. You need to get a better jam on a big guy like that to stop him so he doesn't get that type of release. But the other thing is, you have to be thinking that Gates is more likely to release inside than he is outside. Speed is not Gates' thing at this point in his career. You'd have a big spot open in the middle of the field there, so you have to anticipate that you have to cover the middle of the field, the inside, before you're going to cover outside. So I think Adams judged it wrongly, and also he didn't get a great jam to begin with anyway. So if he got a better jam and was able to lock his arms on him, not holding him, but to just stay in his hip pocket within those first 5 yards, he would have been in better position to slow Gates down or bat this ball away. So, I mean, yeah, we're not going to kill him. It's a great tight end, but let's also not forget, Gates is 35, 36, 37, and Adams is a young buck. And I know that he won with his mind more so than his physicality on this play. But, I mean, listen, they drafted Adams 6th overall to cover these types of tight ends. And the reality is that this year, when he's been matched up on good tight ends, he's lost more than he's won. Whether it's Gronk, whether it's Kelsey, whether it's even Njoku, who's a fellow rookie from the Cleveland Browns. Yeah, he's lost more than he's won. And I said this on Twitter. Actually, was it I don't know if it was last week or at the beginning of this game. I said, I think it was this past week during the broadcast. And I think it was Kevin Harlan who was calling the game. And Kevin Harlan said, these rookie safeties, Marcus May and Jamal Adams, they have been better than expected. They've just been tremendous. And I said, or he said good as advertised. And I said, Marcus May has been better than advertised, but Adams has been overrated. And yes, I know Adams is asked to do a lot and stuff, but honestly, he's a bit overrated at this point. And he plays in the box a lot. And, there's a problem. And I don't know if you have this play. I don't know if you do, Joe. But there was one play where the running back, I don't think it was Gordon on the particular play, but the running back ran straight up the gut, and Adams did one of his ankle tackles, and the running back was easily able to fall forward for 3 to 4 extra yards. In the box, you got to run forward with your pads and lay the freaking wood and push people back. You cannot dive at people's ankles. I mean, imagine if they were on the goal line. You dove at somebody's ankles, and you just let them fall forward for a touchdown. Adams does that too much. For a guy who plays as close to the box as he does, you cannot play like that all the time. So, I mean, to me, when you factor that in combination with his coverage, I'm not saying Adams has been bad. No. But if you think that he has not been overrated, you're delusional.
Yeah, I think, and Adams, I would say, is more of a linebacker than a safety at this point. Obviously, he plays deep and stuff like that, but in terms of how much he's playing at, either in the secondary in coverage or in the box, he plays more linebacker. I don't think anybody can question that. And then the last play with Gates too, and that's a great point too. I don't know how big Gates is. I don't think he's much bigger than Adams, and you don't really think you'd release to the outside when there's a receiver out there. You couldn't see it on the film. So it wouldn't make too much sense. So that's a good point, him releasing to the inside. On this play too, and we'll talk. And Adams has definitely struggled more in the secondary, like in coverage, than he has in the box. He definitely makes a lot of plays in the box, but you bring up a great point. I bring it up in my film reviews all the time and even on this show that he ankle tackles way too much, where either ankle tackles, like you said, and they fall forward from those 2-3 yards, letting either make it a second and more manageable, third and more manageable, pick up a first down, or he has to depend on multiple other guys, coming in to clean up the tackle. So he has to start tackling higher. And people will say, oh, well, what do you know? He's tackling the ankles. He's in the NFL. You've seen it many, many times this year where it's not successful. They fall forward. You're supposed to either wrap them up in the waist, put your head across their body, or you do like the Seahawks way of tackling where you wrap up their thighs and you pull it into your chest and kind of scoop them, like the rugby style of tackling that Pete Carroll took that from. So he definitely needs to get better at tackling. We saw him, I think it was Isaiah Crowell in the open field. He let up a first down because he tried to ankle tackle him. He just ran right through it. So that's been happening plenty. Here on this play, he just doesn't get his head around. Completion right over his head. I'm not sure who number 84 is. I don't know his name. I know Hunter Henry and Gates. I don't know who their third and fourth string tight ends on the Chargers are, but here he's in coverage. I think he's actually in zone. It might have been man, but regardless, he's responsible for this tight end. The ball is coming right over his head. The tight end is looking for it and putting his hands up. Adams is late to react to it. Gets a ball called right over his head. So another play of Adams not doing that well. And
the thing is he's trailing here because he didn't diagnose the play quick enough. And we're talking about him as like a football genius, a high IQ type of guy. But, even going back to your film breakdown of the previous week where, Mark Ingram caught that huge screenplay, which was probably Adams' responsibility.
Talking about screens, yeah.
Too often in coverage, he's misdiagnosing the play. And yes, this is the thing. He's a rookie. So in time, he'll be able to get these things. But maybe me, myself, and you and others, we overestimated his football acumen to this point, which is fine. He's a rookie. He'll get it. But, to this point, we've overrated him. And if he had diagnosed that play quicker, he wouldn't be trailing to that slow number 84 white bearded tight end like he was.
Is there a problem with white bearded guys like yourself, Kyle?
I'm just saying we're generally slower than some black guys with dreads.
Yeah, oh, Jesus. But yeah, so it's, you don't really see a lot of fast white dudes in the NFL other than maybe I think Jordy Nelson's pretty fast. Some other guys, but yeah, not the fastest of tight ends, I would say, for number 84. But here, and you make a good point of, I think Marcus May has exceeded my expectations where I thought he would struggle a lot more. He's been really good this year, and people will probably, all pro and all that stuff. That's a bunch of, what's that word you use? Poppycock.
Yes.
Too, because there's many times this year where, like I said last week, and you listened to the show, where he was beat on a corner route, and Drew Brees just didn't go there, or that one game where he was in cover 3, he had middle third responsibility. Guy ran right into it like a post. He didn't notice him. But on this play, this is just a screen. That's like the one thing I'm learning a lot about runs and pass concepts. I'm trying to still figure out a lot of what exactly screens are called. I can tell you what a counter is, a power, a sweep, a jet, whatever. Screens, I'm still trying to figure out all the names of them. But I'm just going to call this a running back screen for now. And this one's hard to see because I had to use the bird's eye view of this. Well, one, you see Darron Lee just be very slow to diagnose this, but you also see both Adams and Screener both being way too aggressive here. Running back catches, I think it is Gordon. And instead of going over top of this block and trying to contain it where these guys in the backside chasing the play down can make the play, both Screen and Adams right here. This is Adams. This is Screen. If you're not watching on YouTube, I don't know what you're doing. But we'll try to explain it best we can. But two blockers come out, and they both try to go underneath the blocks, being too aggressive to get to the direct path to Gordon, which obviously gives Gordon the angle, and then he gains another, let's say if they make the tackle right here, if they're less aggressive and contain him, let's just say, I don't know, 10, 20, 35, almost 35, 40 yards, and I'm not going to say they're going to definitely make the tackle here, but
you'll at least slow them down, and then somebody else could.
Exactly.
Tackle.
And in what world, with a guy like Gordon, who's a fast running back, or at least decently fast, I don't know like his 40 time or anything like that. But in what world are you athletic enough to get underneath these blocks and still catch him to the sideline? And it may be Screen, I can see it. Maybe if he widens this out a little bit more and tries to loop it around, maybe Screen. But Adams, in what world are you going to get under this and trace him down? There's no way. So we see him at times be too aggressive, and this was another play of that, Kyle.
Yeah, and the thing is like part of film study is know your opponent. What is your opponent's strengths and weaknesses? And Gordon is one of the faster backs in the league. So you probably wouldn't make that play on most running backs, but especially Melvin Gordon, it's a poor judgment. And to hear your point, I mean, I don't know if you guys did the pursuit angle drill when you were in high school. Yep. We certainly did. But sometimes you just got to run. I'm not going to be able to stop him here. He might be able to get the first down here, but I'm going to save and save him from getting a touchdown or save him from getting a 30, 40-yarder.
You contain the play.
Yep. Take a better angle, and just sometimes you just got to cut your losses. But instead, you be too aggressive, and all of a sudden, you go to a much bigger game.
And this is kind of what Marcus May does. You might say this is a bad angle, and maybe he took it a little bit too high, but he's containing this. He's trying to make him cut back. So yeah, he might have maybe made this a little bit shorter, or took this, I guess, a little bit more, I don't know, horizontally, whatever, towards the sideline a little bit, or cut it a little bit closer to Gordon. But he does his job here. He contains to make some cutback, even though you'd like to see him make this tackle, but I'm not going to kill him there for that. But he had the right mentality of cutting him off. So.
Oh, absolutely. Because if he doesn't cut him off like that, I mean, you're talking Gordon is in a foot race with Burris for the end zone,
and he's winning.
And he's definitely faster than Burris. So I mean, like Burris does have the angle on him, but he could potentially, keep him like somewhat close or somewhat far, and then stiff arm him, and then maybe he gets pay dirt. So, May played it perfect. You can't ask anything from him.
And even on this, like the angle, and I think this is a good angle to have if you were just as fast. But Gordon having to run just this, 55 yards, but Burris here is going to have to run that, that 50 yards plus the distance of the field horizontally. So I don't think he's going to catch. There's no way Burris is catching him here. He's never been a fast guy. But okay, let's get off of that. I like talking film. It's definitely fun, especially when I just woke up. I have all this energy. Well, I had to run before I did this show, but let's go to.
It's warming you up, you're not thinking about being so cold anymore in that basement.
Well, I also turned up the heater to the max, which is helping a little bit. But yeah, it's freaking cold down here. It's like 14 degrees out right now or something like that, which is cold for us. But let's go to the number 2 dud. Who is your number 2 dud, Kyle Smith?
Darron Lee, man. Dude just doesn't get it in coverage, and I don't know that he ever will. It's just one of those things that you just got to kind of sense. And yes, film study can help with that, but he's in year 2. But this is, and people like Hakeem, Amir, might be, oh, Darron Lee, this is only his 2nd year playing linebacker, or 3rd year playing linebacker, or whatever he might say. But I mean, the dude just doesn't get it. He locks his eyes on Rivers. And, listen, you're supposed to read the quarterback's eyes, but you also got to have a sense of where the other people are. And, use your peripheries. You can circle your eyes back and forth every now and then. Mm-hmm. But you got this play right here, and there's also another one that you pointed out where, he's got the person who's running the flat, and he just locks on Rivers the whole time, and then he lets up a huge gain. So Darron Lee in coverage is continually a liability. And listen, when you draft a guy, 233 pounds, 6'1", and you say, oh, he's going to be the next Deion Buchanan hybrid type of player, because the NFL is now a passing league. So we want to have linebackers that can run the field. Well, I'm sorry, Darron Lee is not that. Yes, he might have the size, he might have the measurables for it, but so much with zone coverage is just a feel for where things are. And Darron Lee just doesn't get it to this point. I mean, if you go through my Darron Lee thread, which admittedly I'm several weeks behind on my film, but if you still, especially in those early weeks, there's just video gif upon video gif upon video gif of him not knowing where he's supposed to be in zone coverage. And we saw it more again this week, and it led to big plays. So, I mean, listen, the defense by and large was pretty damn good this week. But if there's a sore spot on that defense, to me, it's Darron Lee.
Yeah, in that last play, I don't know if the receiver's running an in or whatever, but Lee is just in the hook zone, intermediate zone, or shallow zone, whatever you want to call it. And like you said, he there's no doubt about it. I think he's definitely been better this year than last year, and even better than he was in the beginning of the year. He's looking like he might be an okay starter at best, which isn't great for a number. Was he 16th pick, 18th pick, whatever the Jets were, mid-round pick?
20th overall.
20th overall. Okay. which is funny, like, because we watch all this film and stuff like that, but people are going to be like, oh, you don't know what pick he was? I don't care. I don't study what pick he was. Oh, yeah, the 20th pick, and Calvin Pryor was the 16th, and this guy was
18th.
the 30th. Yeah, say I don't care, whatever. But, yeah, that last play, the guy's running, I think it's an in and drag, whatever it may be, and Lee way too frequently locks onto the quarterback and has no awareness who's in his zone. And in zone coverage, yeah, you backpedal, you do that half side shuffle thing, and you want to look at the quarterback, but at the same time, you want to be aware who's coming in and out of your zones. If you don't know who's coming in and out of your zone, you're just trying to let the quarterback's eyes take you to who he's throwing to. It's never going to work. Quarterbacks way too frequently throw you off. They're not going to, unless you're playing a bad quarterback, they're not going to just stare at who they're about to go to. And if they see somebody open, they're going to throw to him right away. So you're not going to have a lot of time to react to that. And we've seen that many times this year. We saw in that last play where if he looks at the guy crossing the field into his zone, he could have stepped up in his zone and he could have either laid a big hit for a drop or he could have maybe intercepted the ball. But he stares at the quarterback way too much. Here it's just cover 2 man, and they're running people call it diagonal 7, people call it flat 7. I call it flat 7. It's just a corner routes and then flats. It's a high-low read, and here the fullback comes out and blocks Lee or fakes like he's blocking Lee. So Lee, what does he do? Okay, I'm getting blocked now. Now I'm going to stare at the quarterback for whatever reason. I'm in man coverage, cover 2 man. You can see it clear as day. This is cover 2 man. It's one of the easiest. Man coverage is really easy to distinguish, where zone is a little bit more hard to read if they're in man or zone at times. But he's on man coverage on the fullback. What does he do? Stares at the quarterback. Fullback leaks out a little bit to the flat, catches the ball, and goes for an extra 10, 15, 20 plus yards because Lee's staring at the quarterback.
And that's the thing, like you want to talk about his 40-yard dash time, and when you think about the 40-yard dash, what's the difference between a fast 40 and a slow 40? Is you're just talking about fractions of a second, and even though he's this fast, it can run a 4.47. When he hesitates this much, how much fractions of a second is he losing there? And that slight hesitation where, should I stay on Rivers, or is somebody else maybe creeping over, over the top of me, or whatever the hell he's thinking? He loses time, and even though I don't care how fast you are, you're not going to be able to catch up to the person here. So much of it is mental, and all of it just can't be attributed to physical attributes.
Yeah, they're all elite athletes, and like I said, you have cover 2 man, cover 2, too high. And like I said, let's have a big catch to a fullback, because you're in man. Your primary responsibility is sticking on that man. You're not in zone coverage. You're not looking at the quarterback. You're going to stick on that man, and then maybe if he's looking back for the ball, if you have time, you can look back to the quarterback to see what he's doing, peek at him. But just to lose your man like this in a flat, it's not even like an angle or anything like that. It's just a bad play.
And Joe, to your point, talking about distinguishing between man and zone, I think that the listenership and viewership of JetNation Radio compared to other Jets podcasts is probably much more football savvy. But let's not act like everybody knows the differences of how to distinguish them. But one simple way is in zone. They're going to more so have the defenders are more so going to have their eyes locked on the quarterback and what is he doing. You'll see a cornerback in zone, he might not even necessarily look at the receiver or have his eyes locked on him. But in man, oftentimes the corner, they might not have their eyes on the quarterback at all because their eyes are dead locked on the guy who they are manning up. So when you watch film, that's one good indicator of if it's man or zone.
Definitely.
Yeah, so clearly you can see there that everybody's doing that. So Darron Lee, God knows what he was thinking there.
Yeah, zone, you're looking for the term zone turn, where when the ball is snapped, they flip their hips or their butt towards the sideline. They start backpedaling. But then there's times where in man they squat and then come up. And then zone, you have zone match coverage, which you're basically on man in your zone, and then until another guy crosses that guy or another guy comes into your zone, then you drop back into your zone. So there's zone coverage that have man principles, but still in that zone. So there's a lot of stuff. That's what I'm saying. Football is not an easy thing to break down where it's, this is a good play. Okay, no shit, it's a good play. Why? What were they doing? How they get open, etc. So
it's the most complicated game, and I think that coaches should be compensated better than what they are. I mean, because just take, for example, the NBA, right? It's LeBron James can be in the NBA Finals no matter what team he goes to, no matter who his coach is, he's in the finals with Tyronn freaking Lue as his coach, who was like an interim guy or whatever.
David Blatt, whatever, from like Turkey or whatever the hell he was.
Yeah, or no, Israel. David Blatt from Israel, and freaking, what has happened to Spoelstra since LeBron James has left? Superstars win you games in the NBA. Talent, players. But in the NFL, you can have a great roster, but if you don't have the coaching and stuff, because it's so damn complex and coaching matters so much, teaching these players, where should they be? How should we exploit this matchup? How should we, what type of coverage is going to work well against this concept that this team likes to run? Football is the most complex. It's the most team-centric game. It's not even close in my opinion.
No, it's and that's why I like it the most. It's not even close. Plus the fact that if you get mad in a game, you can lay somebody out also helps me like it a lot. Here you just have, and this is a run play, and we'll get off of Lee. He's my number 2 as well. But he's just the weak side linebacker, and it's a pitch play to Gordon with a fake jet sweep. And just for people who think like jet sweeps and end arounds are the same thing, jet sweeps are going to come right behind the quarterback's ass. And a end around would he would loop around basically where this running back is. But yeah, fake jet sweep, he pitches it, and Lee, for whatever reason, I couldn't even, it's hard to even know what he's looking at, because I think he's looking at the jet sweep. But then after he realizes that it's not even a jet sweep and the ball is pitched, he still reacts the wrong way and then completely takes himself out of the play where, yeah, he would have had to make an open field tackle on Melvin Gordon, so maybe he wouldn't have done it. But what the hell is he doing here? Like,
but the thing is, did he even realize that? And the sad thing is he should have, because you don't need to focus so much on Travis Benjamin, the receiver. Focus on the linemen. The linemen are not flowing that way. Therefore, that tells you that he doesn't have the ball. But he must have thought that he had the ball.
Every single one of them are slanting. They're all slanting to the left. How are you going to react the opposite way of where all the linemen are going, where the ball is pitched? Like, what he's going to pitch it, and then Melvin Gordon's going to throw it back to Benjamin? Like, what are you doing here? So his instincts are severely lacking. I don't know if he's ever going to be a long-term starter. I'm not sure if he's a guy who the Jets are going to activate his 5th year of his rookie contract for the first rounders. And listen, people might think we're being too negative, whatever it is. I've said it before on the show. If you think we're too negative, we're just being realistic. I'm not going to say, oh, well, Lee is good and this and that. And Adams isn't having he's having a good rookie year, but for what we expected, I think he's having a little bit of a disappointing year where I still think he's going to be a pro ball player. I really do. Just the fact that he has to learn so many different positions and he has so many different responsibilities on different plays. I think he's taking a little bit of time for him to learn. I still think he's going to be very good, but we're not going to lie and tell you everything that a Jets fan wants to hear. That's not the show I've ever been. So if you want to hear me say, well, Lee still needs to grow, and this is why he did this, and he's a good player, I'm not going to say it. So,
but you know what? People appreciate that though, because I'll have some people DM me on Twitter and say, like, hey, listen, I like how you kind of like call it like it is and whatnot. So that's the type of people that, JetNation Radio cares to attract. You want your fanboy stuff? Go somewhere else.
There's plenty of shows for you.
Yeah. By the way, Joe, Melvin Gordon impressed me in this game. I like how the dude runs forward, man, gets his shoulders squared in the hole and falls forward. He's quick. He's fast. He's a nice running back, man. I don't like taking running backs in the first round, but he struggled early on in his career, and he had a bad knee injury. But
college, yeah.
What was it in his first year? I think his first year in the league, he had, I forget what the injury was. But
maybe I'm thinking about was that Girl? No, Gurley's kind of the same class, and Gurley had the big injury.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so Kyle, let's move on. We've been on for almost like 40 minutes and only did 2 duds. We get caught up in film. It's just it is what it is. I love it.
But the thing is, now that you're doing it on like Zoom, you don't really have to worry about time constraints as much.
And see, like now if we're on Blog Talk, I'd be like, okay, crap, we have all these topics. We have an hour left. Zoom, I can be like, okay, whenever. Kyle, you have time for 2.5 hours? Okay. So let's move on to our, which I know who this is going to be. Who is your number 1 dud of the game, Kyle Smith?
I don't even need to say it, but Bryce Petty, the GOAT, as some people like to call him. Pretty popular tweet I sent out during the game is, God, please, I'm just asking that the Bryce Petty supporters will finally stop doing stupid things like calling him the GOAT. How can you watch this guy's film and even think that he's going to even be a capable backup in the league.
Yeah, and here Jets 3-by-1, or is it 3-by-1? No, it's not. It's actually 2-by-2. Yeah, 2-by-2 gun set. Gun. He's in the gun, and Curse right here is just he releases to the inside, works his way back outside. So he curves his route stem to where it's supposed to be. I'm not sure if he was supposed to release outside or he wanted to get the outside, but regardless, he beats his man right here. Like I said, releases to the inside, gets a step. He gets the cornerback to hesitate to the outside because he throws that jab step outside, gets by him inside, has a step on him, works his way back outside, and Petty, for whatever reason, if you see Curse here when you're throwing the ball, you're gonna try to put the ball here. He puts the ball outside and too high, that might have not been the best spot to put my Krauser. But you're gonna put the ball here so you can keep running straight, regardless of what you thought he was going to do.
By the way, it's
outside.
Cursor. I noticed this a couple of times. You said this. It's Cursor, not Krauser. Krauser is a food market.
Oh yeah, KR, whatever. Okay, Cursor. I'm still calling it Krauser just to piss people off now. Okay, but my Cursor. But yeah, regardless, you want to see Petty put the ball somewhere around here, lead him on his path. And just because you thought he was going to release outside, maybe that was the play for him to release outside, you have to adjust. So, like I said, what does Petty do? He puts the ball way too far outside where Curse has to completely bend his path and try to get to the outside, and it's just a complete miss. So I'm going to bring up much more plays, or a couple more plays, because Petty is just Go ahead, Kyle.
Like I'm watching this and I'm thinking, like, does Petty think he's running a corner route or an out route? Because that's the direction that he throws the ball in, but that's not what Curse is doing. Curse is, he released inside, but then he's stacking him. He's getting on top of the corner to make it more difficult for him to get a pass deflection. Not only that, he's by running towards the left, towards the sideline, he's getting further away from the safety. So this is a savvy move by Curse. It's a good route by him, but Petty, the fact that he sees him drifting towards the left, does Petty all of a sudden think he's running a different route? I mean, I
have no idea, man. I really don't know. It's a great point. You said stacking the cornerback and stacking. You're just getting over top of his body, so it's harder for him to make a play. It's like same thing with like cornerback techniques where you can either trail a guy where you're on his back hips. You're limiting any move he could do. Cutting back to the quarterback. Curl, hitch, comeback, whatever it is, or you can stack a wide receiver where you're basically over top of them, so it's hard to run any vertical routes, posts, skinny posts, 9 routes, whatever it may be. And the same thing, receivers can stack corners, which when you're a corner and you're stacked, it's going to be hard to stop any type of play deep, which right there, he has him stacked. What does Petty do? Completely misses the throw, which is just – and this is another one, which I'm going to bring up both missed throws. And this one was hard to – and last week what we did was I went through multiple different plays of footwork where Bryce Petty, his back foot will be too far out. He'll throw off his back foot. His plant foot is not even his plant. He'll plant on his foot, and then it's pointed in the wrong direction. It slides back. He doesn't drive through his throw. Just terrible footwork. So I'm going to bring up both just missed throws and bad decisions. That was a bad decision, I think, more than a missed throw. He just didn't put it in the right spot. And Kyle, this is a play that you commented on Twitter, so you could take it away here if you want to. Yeah,
sure.
Oh, did I? I do that. Yeah, I do that. I think I do that at least once or twice a show, because it's up on my screen. I'm like, oh, he can see it. But this is the wheel to ASJ.
Yeah, so no surprise, Bosa wins with length over Beacham. Beacham, 6'2" left tackle. He's going to get beat like that, as he often does. Petty sees him drifting back into him. Clearly, that rushes Petty's decision to throw the ball before he really needs to, or doesn't let him step up properly. Yes, you need to step into your throw, but Bryce, dude, just step forward a little bit to the right, reset your base, and then step into the throw. Pocket navigation, man. Yeah. I mean, and this is actually probably McCown's worst aspect as a quarterback, is his ability to maneuver and navigate within the pocket. But so much of quarterback play is just, it's not, how well you can throw the ball or whatever. And some people say like, oh, well, Hackenberg has a good arm. It doesn't matter if he has a good arm. If you can't navigate within the pocket and stuff, it doesn't matter. But he's got a wide open lane right here. I mean, literally, he could run on that play scramble if he wants. I'm not saying he should have. You should always look to pass first. But just so much room to step up. He didn't even need to step to the right, but I would step up into the right and then throw it. But the dude just doesn't have a feel for the game. And, when you talk about quarterbacks, some of it they just say is innate. You can't teach it. How do you teach a guy to step up in the pocket? You could show him it on film all day. I guaranteed Bryce Petty's probably watched this film who knows how many times. And say, oh man, I got to correct that going forward. But the fact is do you have a feel for it, or do you not? And some guys do, some guys don't. And it's clear that Petty, thus far in his career, he just doesn't have that. I'll say that sometimes when things break down, he'll scramble outside the pocket, and he's pretty good at throwing on the run.
Yeah, he had a few nice scrambles this game too.
Yeah, but that's different than resetting your base in the pocket. So
yeah, and it's like that play, like I said, just a quick little hop step to the right, and you can easily make that throw. It would take a quarter of a second, and even if you don't hop step to the right, it's you're an NFL quarterback. Even if you're anticipating contact, it's still a 10-15 yard throw. You should be able to make that while falling backwards. It's not a hard throw to make. You're throwing to a 6'6" tight end who is wide open. So regardless, even if you don't have the ability, or not the ability, the smarts to sidestep there or hop step, you have to make that throw, regardless if you do that or not. So and
you can't miss that throw.
The whole good arm thing. Listen, I have a friend Kev who could probably throw a ball 60 yards, legitimately 60 yards, short little jacked Irish kid that I know, but it doesn't mean he has good accuracy or good decisions. Like you can have there's plenty of guys with good arms. Jamarcus also had a great arm, but where is he now? I have no idea. So I want to bring up another play here. I guess we just brought up two misses, so I'll just bring up another miss here, Kyle. I have 5 plays of Petty, and we don't have to really dissect them all, but this one is just it's zone coverage. ASJ is in the slot right here. He runs a hitch route, and then he kind of drifts to the left to the sideline to find a soft spot in the zone for the people who aren't listening or who are just listening, not watching on YouTube. Like I said, you should be. He drifts to the left. He is relatively open. He is open. I'm not going to say relatively. He is not wide open, but he's open. He has a good, I would say 3-4 yards on the guy who's running from the middle of the field. And Petty dirts it. It's not even close to maybe he can dive on the ground forward and grab this ball, but drifting to the left, and Petty just misses him. And this play was hard to see his footwork because he was in the there's a crowd around him, so I couldn't assess the footwork here.
Do you have the end zone angle of this?
No, I don't. And the one thing I could see if he doesn't drive through that throw, like I've been saying a lot, where you want to flip your hips and step through the throw. You get power that way. All the power at the quarterbacks. Yeah, some arm, and quarterbacks like Favre and stuff like that had a lot of it in arm, but a lot of it is generated from the torque in your hips and the way you move. You step in with your feet. A lot of times with Petty, we see his front foot planted, or not even planted. It's planted the wrong way, so he'll be throwing here in the middle of the field, and then his foot would be pointed this way, which obviously you're fighting your own body. When he throws, his plant foot will slide, which you never want to see. And he rarely, if ever, drives through his throw, where you want to see him step through his throw and towards the receiver that he's throwing to, and we never see him do that. I saw him do that on this throw. You see him not really drive through that throw, and you can say, oh, well, his foot came forward, but he's not driving through that back leg.
No, he just slightly lifted it.
Yeah, exactly. So misses the throw again. He misses plenty of throws. Kyle, I guess comments on that. I'll bring up another one.
Yeah, I mean, dude, the dude is showing that he can't throw the ball, but it goes beyond just that. I mean, look at the game plan in New Orleans last week. This is something that I pointed out on Twitter during the game. Is you want to say that Bryce Petty's grown and, he knows much more about the game in year 3. No, clearly. Look at how much different the playbook was when Bryce Petty has started versus when McCown. The Jets are running many, many more different complex concepts when McCown's in there. And, yes, McCown should have a higher football acumen than Bryce Petty, but you have to clearly limit your playbook for this guy. And when you have to limit your playbook for a quarterback, he's got to be able to do certain things that he does well, actually do them well. So let's say the Jets drafted, I actually floated this on Twitter the other night, or last night for that matter. Let's say Bowles goes to Arizona. Right? They want to replace Bruce Arians. It's kind of like a mutual thing where both parties walk away. And they say, you know what? We want Bowles back. We love the job that he did in Arizona. Well, he's still under contract with the Jets. I would love if the Jets traded him, got like a second, third round pick, something like that. That'd be awesome. Let's say that happens, and you like the job that John Morton did. I certainly did. I'm not saying you'd give him the head coach job, but let's just say theoretically, okay? So you're keeping the same playbook. Mark Schofield, amongst others, said that, Lamar Jackson would be a good fit in, some of the stuff that John Morton's doing, West Coast principles. Even if he is, you're still going to have to limit the playbook. He's not going to be able to do all that stuff. But the stuff he does well, you got to think, okay, he can do this thing well. RG3, his rookie year, he didn't do many things, but the things that he did well, Kyle Shanahan ran over and over and over again, and he was able to execute those well. What things can Bryce Petty actually do well? So you have to limit your playbook for him because he can't do everything. But the things that he can do well, what are they? And, okay, so let's go on. Break this play down right here, this miss to Anderson.
Yeah, and just in terms of, the play, and Kyle, I don't know if I gave you that book a couple of weeks ago. I don't know if you've been reading that, but it really lets you know. There's a guy on Twitter who came at me. He's like, oh, well, Bulls made a really bad decision not challenging whatever the play was where I think it was Gordon is on second down where he got a touchdown or whatever it was. It was a goal line play. Gordon got the touchdown or the first down, and you couldn't see into the pile at all. There was no way to see into the pile, so they're going to stay with the ruling on the field no matter what, because you couldn't see when the knee was down. He's like, oh, Bulls should have at least challenged. I'm like, one, it was a pile up. Two, people don't realize, okay, well, Bulls, it's just Bulls and Morton and the position coaches. There's 5 guys in the booth reviewing the film of every single play and telling Bulls in his earpiece whether to challenge or not. So it's not all Bulls. So, and I don't like Bulls, and I'm fine with him not coming back. I think he's done better this year a little bit because, listen, people
hard
say,
to do worse.
Yeah, that is very true. People will say, yeah, he did a much better job. Maybe a little bit, but at the same time, how many of these games is he allowing 38, 31 points? A lot of people thought the problem with this team was going to be more the offense. The offense has put up 37 points versus the Bills, 38 points versus the Chiefs. Was it the Chiefs? They put up 38 points. So I think 31 points against the Panthers. So they've been putting up some points. Obviously, there's some games where they're not. But look what Morton is working with. He's working with a terrible quarterback, a very bad offensive line, which leads to no running game. So I think Morton has been much better than people actually think he's been this year. And a lot of
he hasn't gotten enough credit.
No way. And something else, like you said, with the playbook that severely limits the coaching staff is you have teams have 500 plays. Now you can run those plays at multiple different personnels, but 500 concepts, whatever you want to do. And your game plan, okay, we're going to cut it to 250 for this week. Okay, then we're going to cut it again in half because we're playing a 4-3 versus 3-4. So you cut it in half again. Okay, well, they run a zone versus man. You're going to cut it in half again. And you try to look at the strengths versus the weaknesses of that team. But when you have Petty, what are your strengths on your passing game? What is it? So it's hard for Morton to scheme up anything that's going to be successful. Now on this play, he releases the ball and Anderson's slight hesitation doesn't get the cornerback to react. They're in zone. You can clearly tell that. But it's when he releases the ball, it's probably here. Why are you throwing the ball to here when the corner is 3 yards off and has inside leverage when instead, and they break it down on the broadcast, that's why those X's pop up, when instead you're throwing it here where he's going to have to work through the cornerback. One, he's skinny, so that's going to be hard for him. He has to work through the cornerback and get in towards the A in the AFC symbol here, instead of putting on his back shoulder towards the front pylon where the cornerback is not really in great position to make a play on the ball and give Anderson a chance to at least play the ball, where if the cornerback realizes this earlier, this is a pick for him. So it's this is just a terrible decision for Bryce Petty.
And, it just goes to show you in college, how did Bryce Petty put up all these good numbers when he was in college? Well, he was thrown to wide open spots all the time. That's the big criticism about Big 12 quarterbacks, and some of the criticism that people have about Baker Mayfield is
great point.
The defenses in the Big 12 are terrible, and you're always thrown to wide open spots if you're a quarterback. In the NFL, you don't have that type of stuff. So, like, yeah, Bryce Petty, he could float a ball like up that, and it's going to, the receiver is going to go down and make a play. But in the NFL, you have much, much less spacing, and you're not throwing to an area. You have to throw into windows or throw through windows for that matter. And we're seeing that Petty has not been able to make that transition. He is not worthy of a roster spot. I would not be shocked if he's not on an NFL roster at all next year. Because if the Jets cut him, who's going to pick him up?
Yeah.
I understand. Yeah, there was that rumor. Okay, some people wanted to trade for Bryce Petty. After you got these 2 games worth of film plus what you had last year, and let's say he starts this week too and sucks again, who's going to want that?
Yeah, exactly. And it's just like, and yeah, like you said, you have to be able to throw. You have to be able to anticipate windows. In the NFL, if you see something open, it's not for the most cases, it's not really open because the defense is going to, readjust to the play. You have to be able to anticipate windows. You have to be able to throw through tight windows. That's like you said, Baker Mayfield, perfect example where people are saying he's throwing wide open to wide open receivers a lot. Where he will he be able to anticipate windows in the NFL? We're not too sure. He's also uber aggressive where he shouldn't be. And just like an example, okay, you have like a guy like Deshaun Watson thrown to Mike Williams, and they're playing, I don't know, Mount St. Mary, whoever. I'm just giving a random team, and you're throwing up to Mike Williams versus a small school cornerback. Yeah, it's easier, and I make those plays look good on the stat sheet. But when you're throwing to Mike Williams versus Patrick Peterson, it's a different game. So. And this is the last play at Petty. We've talked about Petty a lot, but this is just another terrible decision. And Jets are in a 3-by-1 gun set, 3-by-1 gun set. And Austin Seferian-Jenkins is running a hitch. It's a rub route. The purpose of his route is to get in the way of this man defender on Elijah McGuire. Petty, when he's throwing the ball, clearly sees that this linebacker in man coverage on McGuire is not affected is not going to be affected by this rub route. What does Petty do? Instead of leading him to the outside or throwing it short into the outside, he throws him to the inside where it might not be a linebacker. It might have been a safety on this play, but safety or a linebacker, whatever it was, I forget. Could be a safety who's playing a linebacker spot. But regardless, puts it inside, and the player almost picks it off. So just a terrible decision again. Like, he throws the ball right there. You could see the defender is coming over that rub route, and has inside leverage. What does Petty do? Throws it to the inside. Like, come on, man.
Could be a pick. Easily could be a pick. And not only that, but dude, this is something I pointed out so many times. Dude, look at how much times a guy double clutches the football within a game. When you do that, not only are you slowing down your throwing motion, but you're also telling the defender, oh, you're going. He's throwing on this side of the field. It's not a pump fake. Like Drew Brees will throw a pump fake where he's not throwing it. Petty does these out of hesitation, uncertainty. Like, his eyes are locked on the same side. Like, when he does this, he's like, okay, I'm not going to throw it yet. Let me just wait for a split more second before I throw it. But when you start pulling the ball forward like that, you're telling the defender, okay, I'm actually going here with it. So they already know that you're going there with it. Like, a pump fake is designed to throw somebody off. You do that with a different receiver. He's doing it with the same player. And
it's not even a pump fake because it's like it's a clutch. Like, nobody thinks like right there, okay, I'm throwing the ball, really. You want to throw a pump fake to this side and maybe make him react, or you pump fake to the middle so he reacts to the inside, whatever, and give him a little bit of room. But like I said, inside leverage, throws to the inside. Maybe when he throws the ball, if he sees – because he's seeing like this, maybe he tries to get him to the outside and make McGuire adjust to this ball, because you have to adjust a lot in the NFL. He is beyond bad. And this is why this next game, I would prefer to see Hackenberg. And I said that to you.
Same.
I think I said to you last night, I think Hackenberg's worse than Petty, but I just want to see a different quarterback. Let me evaluate a game of Hackenberg versus Petty, because I know Petty's not going to be anything. I also know Hackenberg's not going to be anything, but at this point, I'd rather just see somebody else.
Yeah. And that'll further tell management, like, hey, listen, we missed on these guys. We at least gave them some action, and they were dreadful. And this is multiple years of sitting on the bench for full seasons, given time to develop, having at least in theory, savvy veteran quarterbacks there to mentor them, and they still don't have it. They don't have anything. So that'll tell management to move on. And another reason why I want to see Hack is just so these Hack supporters will shut up. so many people were hyping him up, and remember when he like showed up to training camp the first?
You? I thought you really liked Hack coming out of Penn State.
Shut up, never. I was one of the biggest Hack detractors, and people got on me for that. Like when he showed up for the first day of training camp practice, and like he had like a little giddy smile, and like people started always throwing around that gift, like it's time, it's Hack time, unleash the Hack attack. Like I understand, like listen, if Hackenberg became good, I would love to eat my words and say, you know what, I was wrong, and I would cheer the guy on.
Yep.
But like when you're right about something, sometimes you got to just say like, you know what, I was right, and just I don't want to see the dude fail. But when you know something's gonna fail and it happens, it's like I told you so, and I don't want to continue to make the same mistake.
That's the problem with realism versus negativity, Kyle. Where listen, I'm like I was negative, and I'll admit it when Elijah McGuire came out of college, and I'll admit that I said I didn't really think he's a good running back. I didn't see him break a lot of tackles in college. What does he do? He comes out and he impresses me, and I admit it. So I don't think Hackenberg's good. I don't think Petty's good. But listen, if they came out and they were throwing 20 touchdowns and 7 picks a year and were playing well, I would gladly eat my words. Because at the end of the day, I'm a Jets fan. I want the Jets to succeed, but I'm never going to look at stuff with it. Maybe it does alter my opinion a little bit with being a fan of the Jets, but I try to keep it to a bare minimum. Mm-hmm. So we're not being negative. We're just being realistic. It is what it is. So let's go to the studs of this game. Who was your number 3, Kyle?
Studs. And by the way, if teams were not realistic, then that team would never be good.
True.
Okay. So number 3, I'll put Xavier Cooper. A couple nice pass deflections, solid in the run game. I didn't do a deep dive on the film yet, and one of the things, my favorite things to watch in the film is the trenches, but he seemed to hold his own, seemed like he brought a decent motor, and just from watching the broadcast angle and your plays that you put up, he seemed to bring a lot more in the trenches than Muhammad Wilkerson did in recent weeks. So I put him there. And some of it is also because, like, listen, let's give a guy credit where it's due. This guy's coming in, very seldom playing time, hasn't been on the roster all year. And, he brought it. Like, and this is the type of stuff we're used to seeing from the old Muhammad Wilkerson. And yes, he had some of these this year, but hey, listen, this is a savvy play right here. You're not going to get to the quarterback, 3-step drop, get your hands up, pass deflection. And those switch games, like, let's say Rivers, he's thrown to a flat route here or something, and they gain 3 yards on the play. And all of a sudden it's 2nd and 7 or 3rd and 7. Well, 3rd and 7 versus 3rd and 10, there's a big difference there. Pass deflections like this matter on shorter routes. It's not always about like, oh, did he deflect a pass that was going to be like a big touchdown or whatever? No. Every yard counts in football. Down and distance matters. So sometimes you just have to cut your losses. You're not going to get to the quarterback on your pass rush. Get your hands up. Nice play right here.
Yeah, he's never going to win this. He actually takes it way too wide, where he's almost getting into Jordan Jenkins' passing lane. And we're not saying Xavier Cooper's perfect. We're not even saying he's good, but for what he was expected and what he's doing over the last couple of weeks with Wilkerson out, he's been a guy who, okay, let's bring him back as a reserve guy. I'm fine with that. But here, yeah, he's not going to get there. To Rivers on the 3-step drop, puts his hand up and gets the pass deflection. Rivers, by the way, terrible. That's just like a terrible mechanics throwing the ball.
Yeah.
But he's been known for his bad mechanics before, so I'm not going to kill him on that. If you can get the ball there, you can get the ball there. You more pay attention to mechanics when the ball doesn't get there. Rivers has always had a weird throwing motion, but he wasn't.
Yeah, it was funny on the broadcast when they were talking about like he had concerns of whether or not he should correct his son's throwing motion because his son Gunner throws the ball very similarly.
Right, his name is like, Gunner. I heard, yeah.
That's a pretty cool name, like Gunner, and he's a gunslinger. But anyway, they were like, should you correct your son's throwing motion? No way, man. Like, it's worked for you. But yeah, like Rivers is the exception, not the norm. Most guys try to go and throw the ball like that. It's not going to be successful, but for some reason it works for him. Yeah,
exactly. But he wasn't my number 3. My number 3 was actually Juston Burris. We didn't even go over Petty's stats, which I'll just say it now. I left it out, but 15 for 28, 119 yards, 4.3 yard average per throw, which is terrible. A 15.4 QBR, which is beyond bad. And he took 2 unnecessary sacks, which I didn't bring up, but I could bring them up if people wanted to. But he took 2 sacks that were just not necessary. He could have thrown the ball away, whatever, sidestepped it. But number 3 is actually Juston Burris. And I've been down on him this year. The last 2 games, he definitely played better, which is good. I haven't really noticed him a lot on film, which is good for a cornerback, unless you're obviously want to get picks and stuff like that. But 36 coverage snaps, 0 receptions allowed. He had 2 big tackles, and here he's right here, comes off the receiver's block with a spin move on the pitch play, or it's a end around. On the end around, and makes it. Well, he doesn't actually make it. I don't know if he technically got the tackle for this, but he doesn't take the best angle actually, but still forces the running back. I think it's actually Travis Benjamin to the sideline. Yep. Where Josh Martin, David Bass, whoever. I think it's David Bass.
That's Bass.
Yeah, David Bass cleans it up, but nice play there from Burris. Like I said, not letting up any plays in coverage, which is good.
The impressive part is the recognition and the ability to spin off the receiver's block. Yeah. That was the impressive part of it.
Yep. Yeah, I'm trying to get through this stuff so we can get to the other stuff. But yeah, like you said, the recognition that the play is going outside, and then to.
By the way, I'm not in a rush. I know that like when you usually do the show, Glenn is up really late at night and try to maybe like hurry it at the end so he can get to bed. I'm not in a rush, so you don't have to worry about that.
Good news. Like you said, recognition to spin off the receiver and to know that he has to get to the sideline, use that spin move, gets off of him, and makes the, I don't know, want to call tackle, half tackle. He let Bass made the tackle, but this is another one, recognition. He's in a curl to flat zone. I don't have the other view of it, but he is in a curl to flat zone here. Has a recognition that is that Tyrell Williams? I think it's Tyrell Williams. He's running from that's the field side. He's in the slot or the outside slot. Some people call this the inside slot. This is the outside slot. It depends on who you are and what you want to call each position. That's the hardest part.
He's in the middle of the three on the 3x1 stack.
Well, yeah, that's like 3x1 gun set, and some, like I said, from what I've studied and what I've done, there's so much different terminology too, which confuses a lot of people because some people will call this whatever the H receiver or the whatever the Y whatever. Like some people call this guy the Y, even though he's not a tight end. So it really all depends. But just to be simplistic, I'll call this the outside slot and this the inside slot. That's how I do it. That's how we're going to do it. So he's running from the outside slot position. He runs a drag, and it's on 3rd and 7, and Burris comes up in his zone and throws a pretty big hit on him. So nice play from Burris. Where we've seen him struggling at times, or many times this year with tackling and taking terrible angles to ball carriers and letting up big plays. And yeah, this is a little bit easier if he's not looking at him really. It's just a drag route. He's not running straight at him, but still, nice play from Burris.
And by the way, if there ever is a time when you basically dive at somebody's legs without wrapping, which is what he does here, it's this type of time when he's on an angle, like he's not looking forward at you. He doesn't have the ability to lower his shoulders or stiff arm you or anything like that. Okay, that's the time you can do it. But when you're in a hole, I'm talking to you, Jamal Adams, and a running back can throw his shoulder at you. He can throw his hand at you to stiff arm you. You do not ankle tackle in the NFL. But here it's fine. You? Yeah.
Yeah,
here, I mean, basically the receiver's defenseless, and if you're Burris, you're not going to hit him up high because that's how you get one of those penalties. But this is a good play. Good play by him. Do you have any of his solid coverage snaps, actually?
No, that's the thing. I was doing it, and then I put him as number 3. And there might be something in there, but that's the thing. And I said it before. When I'm watching film, basically what happens is I'll watch the play maybe a couple times, and I'll see, okay, this guy stood out in a bad way. This guy stood out in a positive way. Now you're talking about coverage in terms of even safeties and cornerbacks. It's hard to notice that. I do sometimes, but yeah, I don't have anything. I don't think.
By the way, how did Burris do in training camp when you were there? Because I'm wondering, what the hell did this guy do to get in the doghouse to not be able to really play this year up until this point?
Well, he was doing okay versus some receivers, but when he was playing Robbie Anderson, he got beat multiple times daily when I was there. He was getting toasted by Anderson. That's all I remember. But I think it's it's weird because at the end of the last year they said I think it's Casey Rogers said that they want to play him more at the end of the year, which is hey, dumbass, you have control of that. You guys can play him more if you wanted to. And then he didn't really play as much this year, but when he was in, and he was in more in the beginning of the year, he just did not play well. Just whatever it was, not like last week in his cover 3, he just lost the guy behind him. So he's been okay. Last 2 games he's been better, but we'll see if he ever turns into anything. But yeah, he's my number 3. Kyle, who is your number 2?
Number 2, I got a big old Mike Pennel, that massive human being. The dude's bringing it, man. I mean, listen, he's not going to be a guy who's ever going to get to the quarterback with consistency, but you can't move the dude in the run game. and you put out a couple of plays of him just manhandling people. But hey, listen, Mike Pennel, solid player to have on the roster. You know, does a lot of the dirty work. You know, so much with running is just, you know, like fits and stuff and not being able to get moved off the ball and fighting through a combo. And the dude, I mean, like, listen, let's look at this play right here. So you called this the jerk move. We used to just call it the pull when I was in high school. You know, is able to use the guard's momentum against him. And then you basically just rip him down with your force and just tosses him aside, makes the play.
And what do you call that move, Kyle? You call this the pull move?
Yeah, we just call it a pull. Like, he doesn't really do much. Like, so sometimes, like, when you bull a guy, like, and you get him moving backwards, and then, like, so his momentum's already thrown off, and then he's going to try to anchor down. Once he starts to anchor, you pull him. So we'd call it the push pull. Now,
Yeah,
Pennel doesn't really go in here with force, so I wouldn't really call it like a push pull. I would just, like, you know, refer to it as a pull, or calling it a jerk is fine. You know,
no, I just wanted to ask just because, and that's a perfect example of just different terminology. And people have different terminology for coverage, for how you play a receiver, what techniques, whatever. Well, techniques is really not too much. Even though I've had a guy when a guy was playing like a wide 9, like he is, or 9 technique. I call this a 9. 5 would be more towards this way where my cursor is. He's like, well, no, if there's not a tight end there, then it can't be a 9. And he was like, well,
BS. Who said that?
Oh, this guy, like, I don't even care to say his name. I think it's like Michael Siciliano or whatever on Twitter. He's like, yeah, well, guess what? I've been taught by McCagnon. I was like, okay, buddy. Like, messaging me. He's like, hey, yeah, that's not a 5 tech. That's a 5 tech, not a 9 tech. And by the way, this play is Leonard Williams. I'm like, Leonard Williams is not number 99, bud. That's McClendon. So look before you try to correct me in my DM.
What a dumbass. Just mute him.
No, I'm gonna send you those things because he's like trying to correct me, like he was trying to be like smart and like, oh, I know more than football than you. I was like, dude, you're completely wrong. And then I sent him like things Mark Schofield actually put out, or Schofield on his Inside the Pylon website about what a wide 9 is, or 9 tech. And he was like, just because I can't, like, you know, I can't just tell him what it is. I have to get somebody who's bigger than me to tell him because they won't believe me. He's like, no, well, that's wrong. I was taught by Jets coaches. I was like, okay, you with your 500 followers on Twitter and you think you're big shot and just trying to correct me, whatever.
Dude, he's completely wrong. So he means to tell me that a 5 tech is this. A 5 tech is. So he's saying that a 5 tech is
anything outside the shoulder, the shoulder of the tackle.
That's ridiculous. So you mean to tell me that his alignment basically has the same effect on a play as if he were here versus as of being over here? And I'm moving my cursor as if you could see it. But
yeah, this is what you're doing. So yeah, he was saying, okay, this is a 5 tech, and this is also a 5 tech. No, it's not, bud. It's you have imaginary players. So you have a tight end here. So tight end was here, and you're outside shoulder. You're a 9 tech. He's a 9 tech. Now, if there was 2 tight ends, then you can go to 10 to 11, whatever. But yeah, he was just trying to correct me.
An idiot. And listen, just like there's a reason why people line somebody up in that technique, like, you know, different types of rushers and stuff, you know,
speed rushers,
like speed rush. Yeah. Like, so for example, like I would very seldom ever, like, cause I play both defensive end and left tackle. So I have experience playing in the trenches like that. I would almost never line up in a wide 9 because I didn't have that type of speed to get to the quarterback from that type of angle. But I was very physical and stuff. So, like, you know, you're not going to – and then for a left tackle, for example, if somebody is lined up that wide of me, you know, I don't really have to worry about them, you know, hitting me with like a power move or really going into the inside right off the bat. I'm going to have to set in a completely different way to, you know, ensure that this guy doesn't get around me wide or whatever. It's totally different. Like, it affects the complete dynamic of the play of where the tackle's going to set, where the rusher's going to rush. So if he's trying to say that a 5 and a 9 is the same as long as he's on the outside shoulder, he's just delusional.
Beyond wrong.
Those types of people, don't even waste your time with them.
It's funny because I actually deleted the messages because he like messaged me a couple times and I just deleted them because I don't want to respond to the kicks. It's just a waste of my time. But come at me. Come on. If you want to do techniques, that's easy stuff. Come at me about concepts or stacking receivers or this stuff. That's more difficult. I guarantee you don't know concepts. Concepts is much more harder, or defenses or zone match coverages. Like, let's get into some real football then, buddy.
You don't need to prove anything to him.
No, I know. It's okay. But yeah, here, and just to just tell people the differences, like, this is a 0, this would be a 1, this would be a 2. So I'm calling this a 2I because he would be a 2 tech if he was heads up on the right guard, but since he's on the inside shoulder, that's a 2I. This would be a 1.
I got a question for you. So my understanding is anything over the center is a 0, whether you're on the inside shoulder, whether you're straight up, whether you're on either shoulder. Now, inside shade of the guard is 1, head up is 2, outside shoulder, the guard is 3.
No, the way I do it, so let's like you're following my Krauser. If he's heads up, this is a 0. Now, if he's on the center, but he's shaded more towards the inside or towards the A gap, then that's a 1. So if he's on the outside shoulder of the guard, that's a 1 to me. Now, you don't really see him lined up in the middle. Like you wouldn't see him lined up in the A gap, but you'd see him lined up here, which is a 2 if he's heads up here, but a 2I if he's on the inside shoulder of the guard. So like I said, different terminology for different people. So you'd say anything on the center, regardless if he's even shaded a little bit towards on the shoulders. That's a 1 or a 0. I mean,
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, let me share. Can I share the screen?
Yeah. Go ahead.
You have to stop sharing.
Yeah, I got you. I got you. I was taught by a very good person how to do Zoom.
So I mean, like, I'm just pulling up this graphic from inside the pylon, and it's similar to the way I was just saying. Any direction over the center straight up is considered a 0. Inside shade of the guard is the 1.
Yeah, let me
But other people might. Other coaches might. I mean, see, this is the difference. Like, there's a reason why coaches have different philosophies and things like that. So the game is really complex. But regardless,
yeah. So let me just do this so I could what the hell? Hold on. Let me just do this so I can just
in the meantime, while you do that, I'll talk about something. So anyway, people, be responsible for New Year's, right? Don't be a dummy.
You can talk about #vape life if you want.
See, I don't understand the whole vape life thing. I've never vaped. I don't know people that vape per se. I know a lot of people who do hookah. Is it the same thing?
No, I don't. I think hookah is like more just flavors, where vaping you can control the tobacco level or the nicotine level in it. Where I think you can do tobacco with hookah, but it's different. Okay, so yeah, this is mine. This is how I do it, and this is just I pulled up from a random website. This is not exactly. I don't know these guys or anything like that, but this is what I found. So that's how I label it.
Interesting.
With eyes, the eyes, it makes it more specific because, if you're saying this is a 0 and this is only a 1. But what if you're on the outside shoulder or the inside shoulder, the center, or whatever? This just has more diversity where you could be more specific. You know what I'm saying?
This does. It does.
So this is how I
for the inside. Yeah, I actually kind of like this one better.
That's how I do it, Kyle Smith. So you have the eyes, 4-eye, tight end, and then so if you move this tight end over here, these are imaginary lines. So if you moved him over here, this is the wide 9. So if he's far outside the tackle shoulder, you're a 9 tech. So that's the argument I was having with that kid. But I think I asked him to call in, and he didn't call in. Okay, but yeah. So football conversation, but just about techniques. Something as simple as techniques that people can have different terminology. So imagine concepts. It's just it gets crazy. But okay,
I'm gonna text you to send me that graphic.
Okay. Yeah, I can do that. That's easy. But yeah, so Pennel was my number 2 as well. 5 tackles, 4 solo. And yeah, I call that with the last move, I call that a jerk. Now, if he was the bull rush, the center back, or I think it was the center of the left guard back, and then jerk him, I call that a bull jerk. So it's just, like I said, different terminology. That's just how I do that. But I called a jerk because he didn't really bull him back, but yeah, uses the guard's momentum or the center's momentum, disengages him, and it makes the tackle just a delayed running back handoff. On this, it's an inside zone with inside zone split, actually, because this guy's coming to block the backside. They leave unblocked, and the running back cuts it back because he does not like how this is looking because actually, McClendon is flashing his helmet to a play side gap. Cooper is crashing hard down the line of scrimmage. So what does a running back do? He cuts it back, or in zone, people call it bending it back. You see Pennel here, who comes off a combo block. Actually, this. So what happens? Yeah, combo block from the center and the guard to the backside linebacker is actually, people call that a queen combo block, but I'm not going to get into the combo blocks, different names, but queen. Pennel disengages the center after getting combo block, after the center has inside leverage, which he's probably trying to fight for outside leverage because it's inside zone to the right side. Pennel easily disengages and makes a tackle. So I think he's been.
You can't play it any better than that. I mean, he fights off the combo. He clearly maintains gap integrity on the front side of the play, and then he's able to disengage and get to the backside and make the tackle.
Yeah, easily disengaged too. Like he peeks in the backfield, he sees that the running back's bending it back and makes a tackle. So I think Pennel has been pretty underrated this year. Now he does have some dumb penalties and some dumb plays at times, but just what he does and throwing the offensive lineman back and making running backs cut it back where he's not even getting the tackle. Just he's a massive human being. He makes a lot of plays, and I think he's a guy who, if you get rid of Wilkerson and you're not bringing back another Sheldon Richardson type or whatever, you're going to see this more. You're going to see Pennel more as a zero tech, or as I would call this, a one technique, because he's on the outside shoulder. Like I said, this would be a 2-2-I. I think you're going to see him more here in the interior. We're going to see more McClendon, where he's the 3 tech here, because McClendon is athletic enough to play 3 tech.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So I think that's what's going to happen. And even on that last play, which I already closed out, but I'm going to bring it back up a little bit. And sorry for people for bringing up too much film this episode, and you're only listening to it. It is what it is. I have fun talking to Kyle. We're gonna talk a little bit more film than we usually do, because I love it. So this is.
And by the way, like, some people might be thinking like, oh well, losing Wilkerson, like, it makes sense because it's the cap smart move to do, and he hasn't lived up to the contract. Not only losing him are you saving money, but you're also getting better on the field, because McClendon's been better than Wilkerson, Pennell's been better than Wilkerson. All these guys are playing better than him. So you're cutting him, you're getting better on the field, and you're saving a whole lot of money.
And listen, Kyle, you've heard us talk, like I said, you've listened to the show every single week. At least I believe so. You tell me you listen every week. We don't know if you actually do or not, but I'm kidding. But even here, you see McClendon too, who's using a jerk move, and McClendon has been very good this year. He's not going to blow out on mustache. He's an interior defensive lineman in a 3-4. McClendon has been very effective, and I think he's a guy who gets brought back next year along with Pennel.
This thought just popped into my mind, but we didn't see as much flashes of brilliance from McClendon last year, and I think part of the reason was he was injured last year. So I think his injury played a role in him not being as good as he is this year. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, no, I would. And he's been super impressive. And listen, he's not going to clog up, the A gap when there's 2 combos coming at him. And there's times where he will.
He could do that at times. He could. He's versatile.
Yeah, he's much more of in my opinion, he's much more of like a defensive tackle in a 4-3 where he's penetrating. Where I think let me rephrase that. I think he's more of a interior defensive lineman in a 4-3 where he's penetrating more than a nose tackle in a 3-4 where he's two gapping. And that's not to say that all 3-4s 2 gap and all 4-3s only penetrate, because Bill Belichick with his hybrid schemes, and we brought this up last week, where he runs 3-4 and 4-3, where one side of the defensive line will 2 gap and the other side will penetrate. So it's not as simple as people think is, okay, cover 2, there's always 5 guys underneath and then 2 guys over. Well, there's always 2 guys over top in a cover 2, but it's just there's so much more than people think. But I guess back to my point, I think he's better as a 3 tech almost, but we'll see. Okay, so. And on that play, you just saw McClendon just jerk the hell out of that guy. He did it even better than Pennell did. But let's move on to our number 1 stud of the game, which I'm sure is going to be the same as we've been same on almost all of them. I think other than our number 3s on both sides. Who was your number 1 stud?
Bilal Powell, man, who when I came on, one of the last times I co-hosted, maybe it was the last time I co-hosted with you guys, we were all high on Powell, but I think I had him at like number 3 or 4 on my list of top 25 Jets, and you guys thought that was a little too high.
Yeah.
You're pulling that up?
What, the play?
The list.
Oh no, I don't have the list on me. I didn't like save it in my notes.
I don't know. I started talking about it, and you pull your phone up. So
No, you sent me that text of send me that graphic. I was trying to do it while you were talking, but that was a short little 5-second talk segment of yours, so I didn't have enough time to put my phone back down.
you're trying to say I'm a very long-winded guy.
No. Well, yeah, usually you and Glenn like to go on. Then again, I talk a lot too, though. But here, Powell just on it's a pin and pull run, pin, pull.
And when you say pin, what Joe means is they're trying to pin the defenders inside.
Yeah, down block.
Seal them to the inside so that they can't get outside, so that Powell has a lane to the outside so he can run freely. However, Powell notices that if I don't got space out there, but I got a hell of a lot of space inside, so let me cut it back not one time but 2 times, and bam, he's off to the races.
Yeah, pin, seal him to the inside, down block. Down block is a block down towards the center, whatever you want to call it. Powell notices that a lot of these play side gaps are clogged up. What does he do? He sidesteps once, where that is, I think it's Jonathan Harrison, and then he sidesteps again to avoid number 56, who has outside leverage on Carpenter, and then he runs for 41 yards. So Powell is just this game he played very, very well. And I can't even imagine Powell. Imagine Powell on a team who has like good offensive linemen. Like he's a good running back.
The Dallas Cowboys. I mean, what if the Dallas Cowboys during the Zeke suspension? Because I'm talking to Cowboys fans. I don't watch Cowboys games like that. But Cowboys fans, man, that Zeke suspension killed us, man. I don't know who their backup is there. If it's Darren McFadden, God help him. But imagine Powell behind that offensive line. Obviously he's not Zeke. He's not close to Zeke, but shoot, he's got to be significantly better than whoever Dallas is running back there.
Yeah, and the defense or the offensive line for Dallas, like I said, I probably watch like 2 or 3 games of each team in the NFL, depending on how much they're on TV, etc. I got this picture for you.
Are you sending it right now? From my understanding, the Dallas offensive line has been not as good this year as they have been in previous years. Part of that is because Tyron Smith missed a couple games. I don't know what else happened. Maybe there were some other injuries. Injuries can definitely, kind of mess things up for you. But still, they're very good.
You got it, Kyle Smith. I just sent it to you.
Thank you.
Yeah, they're good, but they're not what they were last year. And
by the way, why do you sometimes you call me Kyle Smith a lot? You got to throw my last name in. Like you don't call Glenn Naughton. I got you, Glenn Naughton.
I don't know. I think it's such like a I don't know, like a common name. It just sounds like cool to say Kyle Smith, like Mr. and Mrs. Smith. Just like, I don't know. I call you Kyle Smith. I think it's more when I'm like trying to strongly address you. I don't know. But here this is just a fake jet sweep pitch and pitch to the outside, and this is a good job by everybody on this Jets offensive line. You see.
How many times could you say that this year?
Not
a good job by everybody on the Jets offensive line.
Not many. Trust me, I've been lower than most. We see Carpenter, who's fighting off this 3 technique. He has outside leverage. He holds him inside. You see Ardarius Stewart come down and block this linebacker, seal him inside. You see Beachum pull. I think he pulls.
Where's Stewart in this play? Show me where Stewart is.
Stewart's right there. So
okay.
Crack block. He crack blocks the Ingram. Yeah. Okay. Ingram's 54. You see Beachum going into the outside. He kicks number 24 out. You see Curse block this number 20. I don't know if he's a safety or a
very solid block.
Yeah. I don't know if he's a cornerback or a safety. So I'll call him a defensive back. And then you see Jonathan Harrison sprinting down the field, which is just fantastic hustle. Now,
I don't think Wesley Johnson makes that play.
No, and don't get me wrong. There's trust me, Harrison had a couple of plays this game where he did not play too well. I'll bring up one later where he gets shrucked over. And this is probably a block in the back. But regardless, great hustle. Powell runs in for the 57-yard touchdown.
I think that's a good no call by the refs because, listen, this dude fell over on his own accord. He was trying to get a call. Harrison just got in his way, and the refs the refs were good enough judgment. Like, okay, that didn't affect the play really that much at all.
Yeah, I agree. Good no call, and he does technically he does have his hands on his back. But at the same time, like you said, he's not gonna make this play regardless. So yeah, good no call by the refs, but great run by Powell there. And
Powell finished the run. I mean, can you go back and play it again? Like Powell finished the run and made sure that he got into the end zone. Because listen, how many times have we seen it? Even with the Jets this year, sometimes you get on the 2-3 yard line and you can't punch it in. Like getting down the goal line is tough to get it in sometimes because you're passing in much confined windows. You can't run somebody on a go route downfield. Everything is condensed down there. So it's much harder to pass the ball on the goal line. Sometimes it's tough to punch it in. So when you have a big play like this, you don't want to just get down to the 2 or the 3. You want to get it in because there's no guarantee that you'll get it in the next couple of plays. Sometimes people think, oh, it's just 1, 2, 3 yards. They have to go. They're going to get it. No, many times that doesn't happen. So good job by Powell to make sure that he finishes the run.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And Powell's not recognized. He's not a power back, but he has some power. Like you see him throwing linebackers over his shoulder sometimes and fighting for extra yards and
always falling forward. He's always falling forward, and that's the difference between a second and or a 3rd and 8 or a 3rd and 6 or a 3rd and 5.
Which brings up completely different like playbooks. Like teams have like playbooks or plays for 3rd and 10, then 3rd and 8, then 3rd and 5, then 3rd and 3. And they have it like systematically laid out with success rates. Okay, well on 3rd and 3, when we pass it on this concept, we have this success rate versus when we run it to the left, to the right on this different concept, we have this success rate. Like it's so much more complex than people think. Is okay, let's just call this play. No, they have a book of on 3rd and 3 when we run a sail concept to the field side, this the intermediate corner route works. Like it's crazy how much, and that's what that book that I gave you a couple of weeks ago lays out more, Kyle. So you can I'm sure you understand, but it's Pat Kerwin, and he was like a guy in the Jets front office and in this front office, and he breaks all that stuff down. It's so interesting. So people should read that book. What the hell is it called?
Take Your Eye Off the Ball.
Take Your Eye Off the Ball. Yeah, the Volume 2 version by Pat Kerwin. You can understand more of, okay, well, Bulls should challenge that. No, he has a couple guys up in the box who are telling him not to challenge it. So he's not going to go against their word when they have replay reviews where Poles doesn't see anything but what's on the Jumbotron, or not the Jumbotron, the screens in the game. And here this is another, inside zone. And Powell sees that the play side gaps are clogged up, and his first read on an inside zone is going to be the first defender in a play side gap. So he's reading this guy here. This defender is winning the play side gap. It's getting all clogged up in here as we go on a little bit more. You see Joey Bosa, who Carpenter is not able to get leverage on inside. He's crashing hard down the line of scrimmage. What does Powell do? He recognizes it. He cuts back hard, and if he keeps going here, this is a negative 1 yard loss. No gain, maybe a 1 yard gain, because Powell, like we said, does, no doubt about it, definitely falls forward for an extra yard, 2 or 3 every single time he runs the ball. But instead of making, like I said, a no gain or a loss of yards, he cuts back and he gets 21 yards.
Yeah, so look at him sink his butt on that play.
Yeah, right. Like that's a beautiful cut. That's great.
Because listen, Bosa is crashing in hard.
Yeah.
He sinks his butt into the ground, maintains balance, whoop, and then he's cutting back and play it through, please. Play the whole thing through. And then, look at him just getting to the second level like that, and that defender, just
this is where we say fight for extra yards, Carly. It's called Carly. Kyle. Carly is my girlfriend's name, by the way. It's probably, I don't know why I just called her my girltend's name.
That's a little weird.
Maybe I'm a little bit too comfortable with you, Kyle Smith.
Jeez.
But this is where we talked about fighting, for more yards, and if he gets tackled here, 44 yard line, 43 yard line, 45.
They're making contact 44, 43, and he brings him. What's that, to the 50?
Yeah, 50, 51. He's dragging this defensive back. He's literally he's on his back, like he's hugging him, putting all of his weight down, and Powell takes him for an extra 5 yards. So Powell,
not to mention that, but also the vision too. Like if you back it up a little bit once he gets to the second level, instead of just running straight forward, and he's got a hell of a lane straight forward, but just running it to the side more, seeing that vision right there, but then cutting it up right at the right moment to get inside of Robbie, that's just good vision right there too.
Yeah, Powell is a very, very underrated back, and He's a little bit more quiet this year because, listen, he's splitting reps with Forte a lot of games, and Elijah McGuire has been integrated into the offense as well. But if Powell had a good offensive line and he didn't have to do this, can you imagine if Powell had a lane and he can run here where the play is supposed to go? Like, he's a good player.
By the way, 51, the linebacker played this terribly. I don't know who that is. That white guy?
The backside linebacker. Yeah.
Terribly.
He did not maintain his gap responsibilities. That is for damn sure. But we're not going to look at him. Just good play by Powell. He's definitely supposed to, maintain his backside gap responsibility. He does not do that.
You can see why the Chargers have one of the worst run defenses. I mean, I didn't know that going into the game, but CBS made sure to hype that point up, and you could see why with that play of the linebacker right there.
Yeah, if he just squats here and just sees that he's going to cut him back, he meets him in the hole, and maybe he tackles him, maybe he doesn't, but at least he's going to attempt to make a play on that. But yeah, that's a bad play.
But yeah, not to take away from Powell, part of playing the game is just seeing a weakness or a mistake by your opponent and then exploiting it.
Adjusting.
Because if he pulled the Trent Richardson there and just ran into the pile, he's getting nothing instead of that huge gain.
Exactly. Okay, so let's move on from our studs and duds. Powell, 19 carries, 145 yards, 1 touchdown for the people who want the stats. I'm not sure if he got any receiving yards or anything like that. Since we're talking about positives of the offense, we talked about Austin Seferian-Jenkins. He was open a couple times, but just because of his body language, Kyle put him as his number 3 dud. But just in terms of how many times he was open,
but even like some of the times like he did get open, like the wheel route, like I'm not gonna like praise him for that. Like
it was a busted coverage.
It's a busted coverage, and give him kudos for the one thing. He did fight through 2 defenders on the one end zone play that we pulled up, but yeah.
Yeah, I've and that's where like the fanboy stuff comes in. Where like he's a Pro Bowl. I think it might have been Kyle Fahey, and I love Kyle Fahey, and I talked to both him and Ben Blessington off the show. Just talk about concepts, and I try to help him out with stuff. Especially Ben, who's been messaging me. He's a good kid, and Kyle just like said, if he had a guy like Alex Smith throwing the ball, he'd be a Pro Bowl tight end. I'm like, dude, pump the brakes. He's okay. It's just you have to look at it for what it is. And
he said Alex Smith.
I think he said Alex Smith. Yeah,
dude. I mean, even if you think Alex Smith is better than McCown, it's like very, very slightly. And I know that there's probably many people that say McCown's better than Alex Smith.
I know what's the funny thing is, if you look at Austin Seferian-Jenkins' season and argue, if you want him to be used more vertically, which I do, he's having a very similar year to the year that Jeff Cumberland had, where we thought he was a decent tight end. He's having a Jeff Cumberland type year. So let's
thing about Cumberland is all those Cumberland yards and touchdowns came in garbage time when the Jets were getting slaughtered, and like Cumberland just he gets like a 40-yard touchdown at the end of the game.
Yeah, no, exactly.
You're talking from the 2013 season, right? When Geno went 8-8.
Yeah. That was the year versus the Falcons, when the whole big game against the Falcons on like Monday night, and oh my God, Geno Smith's so good, and we have Cumberland.
Curly catches that out route, and then
jumps over the guy on the sideline, which is like on a whole bunch of like NFL Network commercials and stuff like that for that like year or two.
Yeah.
But yeah, Austin Seferian-Jenkins 4 catches for 21 yards. He had an okay game.
By the way, that Falcons defense was god awful that year. Awful.
Yeah, no, they were really good. Geno just carved them up, man.
Yeah.
But is there anything else from the offense you wanted to talk about positively before we go to the defense, Kyle?
I mean, there's really not much positive to talk about with the offense, unfortunately.
We did score 7 points, and I said on Twitter the only way the Jets are scoring is if they get a pick 6 in this game. But of course, then Powell breaks off a 59-yard run, which I'm fine with because I like Powell.
Yeah, I'm cool. Like, hey, listen, if the Jets can score a lot of points and still lose, I'm cool with it because I want to see the signs for next year and the growth and stuff. But for me, if you're a Jets fan, you're not rooting for a loss. Well, I mean, listen, I can understand against the Pats. You don't want them to get the 1 seed, so I can kind of understand there. But if you weren't rooting for a loss against the Chargers, I don't quite get it.
Yeah, and we'll go over the draft picks in a little bit and where the Jets can fall. But listen, if they can lose this game, get to the 5 seed instead of winning and getting to like the 10th seed, 5 picks in the NFL draft in terms of just draft capital, trading down, trading up is
night and day.
Is night and day. It's ridiculous. And all you have to do is, so I don't have to explain it for the people listening. All you have to do is go on to, and this is not an exact thing.
But why don't you pull it up?
You know what? Get it here. Let me NFL draft chart.
And by the way, there's like everybody has their own different little math formula and stuff, but I think the one that was popularized most was the Jimmy Johnson one, where I think Jimmy Johnson came up with this like formula of which pick, giving it like a point value. So therefore, like he had when he would go into drafts, okay, if I want to move up to pick 32, what would be fair compensation value? How much would I have to give up in return?
Yeah, it depends like how different, like how desperate teams are, if they're giving up players, et cetera. But looking at, let's say, from 6 to 10, 300 points, or if you go into the later rounds, like pick 75 is 200. The fifth round picks are all like in the low 40s to high 20s. The fourth round is the the single digit hundreds, or not the single digit hundreds, that doesn't make any sense, but 1 through 10 in the hundreds, down to like 50. And, you can see for yourself if you're watching, but from moving, like, let's say if you just want to move up from 10 to, 2, that's, 1,300 points. And look how much picks it would take to move up from 1 to, or from wherever to 2 or to 1. Like, you can see it for yourself. Just
better. You want a better idea of what we're talking about, just watch the video portion of what we're talking about. And we're about a solid almost 2 hours into the show, hour and 55-ish minutes. But in this draft, it goes a little bit beyond that, though, because this draft's a little different. This draft was supposed to be the year of the quarterback, right? And I know that it kind of didn't live up to people's expectations, but let's just say
really quick, Kyle, was there any podcaster who was warning people that every single year this happens?
Oh yeah, you.
Thank you,
but I still think it's a pretty good class, though.
It is, but how many times do we hear? Who was that? Brad Kaya was going to be a top 10 pick, fell into the 6th round and is now cut by the Lions, or Geno Smith, or this guy or that guy. Like, every year it changes so much and fluctuates. That's why I didn't really look into it that much. Where, this year is good. You're going to, depending on if Darnold comes out, Darnold and Rosen, if they do come out, are going to be number 1 and 2. You're going to Baker Mayfield, who, can go anywhere from the top 10 to 15 to the number 3, 4, 5 pick. It depends how well he interviews, how well he does in the pre-draft process. And you're going to have guys like Lamar Jackson who are going to fall a little bit farther than Baker Mayfield, et cetera. So, and then Allen, who I do not want anything to do with Josh Allen. I do not like him at all.
Thank God we're lockstep on that one, man. But that's the thing, though. So, like, you're talking, for me, there's 4 quarterbacks that I'd be comfortable taking in the first round, even comfortable taking in the 5-ish range. And I know that the NFL people are not as high in Jackson as draft Twitter is, but I feel like if you have the right coaching staff to develop him, there's enough raw talent there.
But do the Jets have that staff is a question too.
Well, I mean, you could always fire Bowles and hopefully get your own guy in. So
there's multiple levels.
And listen, I mean, like, if they were to stay with Morton or whatever, like, I'm confident enough in what Mark Schofield says to say, hey, listen, there's a lot of stuff that he's doing already in college that Morton could adapt that stuff to him. Anyway, but regardless, the thing is, in this current draft this year, you have 4-ish quarterbacks. Some would say 5 if you like Josh Allen, which I don't.
No.
And God, I'll be so disgusted if we take him. It's going to be Hackenberg Part 2, just a bigger and better version of Hackenberg, more exciting version, but he's still going to be terribly inaccurate. Anyway,
terribly inaccurate, makes terrible decisions too with Josh Allen. But
yes,
continue with your point.
But anyway, like, so you're talking Chubb is going to go in the top 5. Maybe Barkley goes in the top 5. Maybe somebody else like Fitzpatrick or whatever.
He's good,
the thing is if you have a top 5 pick, you're going to have the ability to get one of those 4 quarterbacks that I'm comfortable with. But if you're sitting at 10 because you go out and you win this game, all of a sudden, if these guys interview very well, Mayfield, Darnold, Rosen, considering he declares, and all these guys, you could be looking at a scenario, because people are saying this is not a deep draft in general, where at pick 10, all those quarterbacks are already gone.
Yeah, and I agree with you on the premise of, I'd rather take a risk on a quarterback high than, take a guy like a Chubb or whatever it may be. But I would say, like, in terms of, like you said, like the top 5 range, I'm only comfortable with 3. Which, obviously it's Mayfield, Rosen, and Darnold, where I'm more comfortable with Jackson, like that 10 to 20 range. I'm not as high on Jackson. I really do like his intangibles and some of the stuff he can do, and especially some of the stuff that I think is underrated in terms of read option and just those type of plays where you hold the defender on the backside or wherever it is, opens up your offense a lot more than people think it does. but some of his decision making is just terrible. Like if you go, Mark Schofield or Schofield, and you watch that YouTube breakdown of all of his interceptions,
It's on my to-do list.
some of his interceptions are elementary mistakes, and that's college level. NFL, it's a completely different game in terms of your mental processing. So if he's making those decisions in college that are really bad, I'm worried about him in the NFL. Same thing with like Baker Mayfield, which I'm a little bit higher on, but Baker Mayfield, the fact that he's throwing to open receivers a lot, and the fact that he is super aggressive on plays where he does not need to be aggressive. Like for example, I'll just give like the most like baseline thing, throwing an open slant on 3rd and 3. He won't do that. He'll go for a post route 20 yards down the field when the guy is covered. Like little stuff like that. You can't do that in the NFL. So if you're comfortable with that, and you're comfortable with trying to kind of hone him in a little bit and being more conservative, then yeah. But like I said, there's only 3 in the top 5 I'll take. Lamar Jackson's a little bit more farther down just because of his elementary mistakes at times. But I would still be willing to take him 10 to 20. Any comment? You want to comment on that, or you want me to just move to the defense? I'm not trying to make it a whole quarterback show, but that's gonna. We have 3 months.
I feel like this is something that, like, to get into this in really detail is something that we'll do closer to the draft. But the initial thought that just came to my mind as well, if you like Jackson enough, would you then trade down, a couple spots, pick up some extra picks, and then pick them maybe in that 10 to 20 range, as you said? But anyway, let's move on to something else.
Yeah, like Kyle, you know as well as I do, fellow podcaster, those months, January to April, are just dry. Like March, it opens up a little bit because you have free agency. But let's just say January to the beginning of March, those 2 months, those 9 shows are just, you're digging for topics. So, well, trust me, we will get into the quarterbacks. And especially after I find some film, I'll get some film from somebody. And watch their games, and I'll break down their games as well on Twitter. So, like I said, you can follow me, JoeRB31. I'm sure Kyle will do work in the offseason as well at film. College, even NFL teams or guys the Jets pick up, you can follow him, AFC East Bros. Do not forget, we're on YouTube, which if you don't know that by now, you've been listening, I don't know what kind of mental state you're in. But YouTube, Jet Nation, and you can go to the playlist, JetNation Radio, and this is where this will be posted.
Can you see this?
At New York Jets, is that you sending them don't draft Josh Allen?
I'm DMing the Jets every day not to draft Josh Allen.
Yeah, because I'm sure the PR guys are really relaying that to Mike McCagden.
Oh, yeah. I mean, they're definitely not doing that, but they might eventually read it, because I know that when they drafted – because there's this one kid who kept saying, draft Jamal Adams, and he would message him almost every day. And when they did, like, the Jets, like – tweeted it out or something like that and said, like, hey man, you got your shot or whatever, and they gave him like a shout out or whatever. So
yeah, you're doing, I think you're like, you have that for like comedic relief. If they do draft him and then he sucks, you can be like, look, I told them
every day, man. Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. But yeah, it's funny. The Jets PR staff does pay attention, because there's last year when I was watching the Jets just not give any effort. I almost every game I tweeted at them, unfollow me, because they follow me, then they unfollow me. I was like, damn it.
They don't follow me. I asked them, why don't you follow me? They didn't answer.
I regretted my decision. I would like to have the Jets following me, but it's okay. Moving on to the positives of the defense, held the Chargers to 30 rushes for 89 yards, which is a little bit under 3 yards per carry, with a long of 19. Steve McClendon, I thought, had a pretty good game again, 4 tackles. Josh Martin. Oh, go ahead.
I consider putting him in the studs, McClendon.
Yeah, he was close. Martin, 4 tackles. He's been okay this year. The last couple of games, he's been standing out on a few plays. I think I do have.
I like him, solid player.
Do I have a? Yeah, I do have a play. I don't know why I didn't put it on my notes that I didn't to cue this up. I'm not even sure what this is. Another inside zone split. You can see it on top right here. I'd label it just so I know. Inside zone split, and he is the 9 tech, not the 5 tech. So he fights off the block from the left tackle, easily sheds him. It's like another, jerk, I would call it, or whatever you want to call that move. It's not really anything specifically. I guess you call it.
It's just a piss poor block by the offensive lineman.
Yeah, he's leaning way too far outside, but regardless, gets off him.
Terrible hand placement too.
Yeah, I don't even know where his hands, like in his solar plexus, and I don't know where the right hand is, but regardless, he gets off and makes a tackle. But Yeah, I think Martin's been having an okay year. I think he can be a good reserve guy where Glenn thought he's going to have like a really good year. I think he's a good
Glenn was
reserve
saying like
type of
8
player.
sacks or whatever.
Yeah, I don't necessarily agree with that, but I think he's been, I use this term probably too much, but relative to expectations, I think he's been solid, which is fine.
He's a guy who has a place on a 53-man roster.
Yeah, a key reserve type of guy. A guy who goes down. You're okay. I'm comfortable with him coming in and starting on the outside or whatever. You don't want him starting every single game because he just doesn't offer really anything in terms of pass rushing. He's okay in the run game, but other than that, he's a whatever. He's a jag, but whatever. So he's on my list. Other positives from the defense, I think Buster Screen. I think the last couple of games he's been playing relatively well. Last couple, like I said, last month, last couple of weeks. Now, for the people who are saying, yeah, he's a really good player and the Jets need to keep him next year. Now, proceed with caution because he said that, and I don't think he's ever going to say, I want to take less money, but he's on the books next year for $8.5 million. He's not an $8.5 million type of corner.
Here's my thing with Buster Screen is corners, they tend to get worse before they get better. At this stage of their career, you're talking he's at the end of his second contract. He's 28 years old. He's going to be 29 before the draft happens. That decline comes quick with corners. And although he's kind of like showing like maybe the best signs of his career at this point in the game, I just think it's much more likely that he's going to regress back to the norm than continue on this level, which is the exception.
Exactly. And I've said that a lot too, where a guy will be playing for a couple of weeks well, but then, like you said, return to the norm. Will have a couple of bad games and even and out. And at the beginning of the year, he was struggling just like he has in recent years. And then this last month, he's been playing pretty well. And people are going to, kind of like, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, recent history bias type of thing. There's a bigger word for that.
Recency bias.
Recency bias. Yes, that's what I was looking for. But they're having some recency bias where he does not deserve that $8.5 million he's getting next year. I'm getting rid of him. He's gonna be 29. Position cornerback where every single step matters, where speed and all that stuff matters. He's going to decline next year. It's just inevitable. But I want to bring up a play really quick, Kyle. I'm gonna bring up two of him, and
sure,
he's been, and I think just in terms of like I said this on Twitter, I'm not sure if he's gonna be back next year, but I would say pound for pound on the Jets, he is the strongest and most physical player they have. Now, does that mean he's a good player? Not necessarily, but in terms of pound for pound physicality and strength, I think he's the strongest.
I mean, that's fair. I mean, listen, I don't think most people like question his ability to tackle. He's not a bad tackler. He certainly is not afraid to stick his nose in there. Doesn't mean he's great at it. But for me, it's always his coverage ability. Doesn't know how to locate the ball. Way too grabby in coverage and things like that. And when you have a corner, you mostly want him for his coverage ability more so than what he's going to bring you in the blitz game. But this is a really solid play right here. So not the best block in the world by Benjamin. He kind of just dives at him, but
throws a lazy cut block. Yeah,
but that cut block will take out a lot of corners, or at least slow him down to the point. I mean, Screen he's able to stick his hands out here, shed him, hop over him, continue running, get back on balance really quick, and make a tremendous tackle on Keenan Allen.
Yeah, you said in coverage, I think we were watching the Broncos game where he got beat over his head, and we just laughed at how he never turns around in coverage, never gets his head around, and he does take bad angles sometimes in the when he's taking angles to tackle a ball carrier. But in terms of physicality and when he gets to the ball carrier, he's super, super aggressive. And if you listened to the show last week, Kyle, which I believe you did, there's a play where he went into the interior of the offensive line and threw his body in there to open up Xavier Cooper for a tackle. Like, just super, super aggressive for a guy who's 175. Okay, hold on. But okay.
Yeah, I mean, his weight profile on the website that we just pulled up is 185, but 5'9". I mean, he's clearly a smaller than average corner. But yeah, you're talking like running backs that, it's not uncommon for running backs to weigh a solid 220 or whatever, not to mention throwing yourself in the trenches of the offensive lines where guys are 300 pounds. I mean, you don't see that every day from cornerbacks.
Yeah, in this play, he's coming from the outside. He's attempting to get blocked. You can say like he doesn't just like run into the offensive line. Like he purposely sticks his head in there, and he takes out the right guard. Takes out the right guard who, Xavier Cooper has both hands on the right guard and the left, the right guard and the right tackle. By Buster Screen fighting into that pile and throwing his body into there, it opens up Xavier Cooper, who then gets in on the tackle. So seeing that from a guy who's 5'9", 180, we'll call it, is really, really impressive in terms of blitzing that stuff. I like him in that turn.
You love that type of play. Yes.
Yeah. So, and then there was another one really quickly, and then we'll move on to the negatives of the defense. This was another one from Screen. Like I said, I'm not sure if they're bringing him back, but just, again, his aggression, his power for being how small he is I don't know how big Mike Williams is, like what, 6'2", 205, 210, I would call it. I'm not sure exact size.
He's much bigger than that.
Oh, is he? Okay. So
wait. You're talking about no. Is that the Mike Williams that they drafted?
Yeah. Is it? Yeah. 81?
I'll pull up his mock draftable. Give me a second, bro.
Yeah, okay. So let's say, you're saying a little bit bigger. So let's say 6'2", 220. I think I said 6'1", 210, 215. But yeah, 6'2".
You're way off, bro.
Am I really? Okay. He doesn't look that big right there. He looks kind of skinnier, but.
Yeah, well, he's not that big. I mean, like, so his mock draftable, he's 6'4", 91st percentile for wide receivers.
6'4", okay.
But he's 218, which isn't, I mean, that's not super big for a receiver. It's definitely big. 86th percentile. Arm length, 33 3/8, 87. His vertical jump is not great, but, even though he doesn't have a great vertical jump, he's a big guy who goes up there and gets it with his long arms. He plays bigger than what his jumping ability is. I mean, he was not known for getting separation in college, but he was a guy who would go and high point the ball.
Yeah, strong. Yeah,
but anyway, listen, you're talking, he's got a solid 35, 40 pounds on Buster Screen.
He's laying them out.
And 1, 2, 3, 4, 7 inches on Buster Screen? 7, 8 inches?
Yeah. So I was off by 2-3 inches and a couple pounds, which is a big difference. So you have a guy, like I said, 6'4", 218 or whatever, and Buster Screen, 5'8", 180, and he's laying them out. Actually, I think he gave him a concussion here. So yeah, like, just to, I guess, kind of reinforce my point.
Yeah, the crazy thing is Buster comes in. Rewind it a little bit more. Buster comes in with his hands going under because he's trying to knock the ball out. But what that does, it's kind of like he pulls like a wrestling move on him. And I think Buster Screen was a wrestler too. He kind of like, because he has his hands under him, he kind of like flips his momentum on him and kind of turns Mike Williams.
Yeah, he does.
Which kind of like makes him kind of like land really awkwardly on his head.
Yeah, he smacks his head. That's funny because if you actually not study the NFL, but most concussions in the NFL actually don't come from head-on-head contact. Most of the concussions in the NFL is falling and then your head whipping into the ground like that. So that
ground doesn't give, man.
Yeah, exactly. So that's actually, if you look at statistics, that's where a lot of the concussions come from. It's not head-to-head. It's not that type of stuff. It's these type of plays. But okay, we'll move off of that. Just in general, I thought he had a positive game. Davis, I thought, was okay. He's been much better than everybody expected this year, Kyle. Much better than I expected. Much better than you expected. He's been a solid inside linebacker. Now, does he still struggle in coverage? No doubt about it. But in terms of
bring him back, yeah.
Yeah, oh yeah, definitely bring him back. He's a leader on this team. He has 120 tackles, whatever it is. And I don't go by tackles like a lot of people do, but he's solid. I didn't notice him much this game, but that's a good thing in terms of the beginning of the year where he was just consistently out of position. He's been very, very good. It seems he's a good guy too.
And listen, if we're talking about tackles don't say a lot, but if we're talking about like his actual tackling ability, the dude does not miss tackles. We're talking about Adams missing tackles. We're talking about, May missing a tackle here or there. We're talking about Burris missing tackles. This dude is as sure as a tackler, as you're going to get on most teams. He's very good at that. Very solid blitzer, as you said. Generally good in run support. He's been in the right positions, but coverage is the big thing. But listen, at this point in his career, his age, he's only really had success with the Jets. Teams have saw what he did when he went elsewhere. Nobody's going to pay him big. So yeah, you're going to have to give him a bigger contract than what he probably got previously with the Browns. I would think, but
no doubt
you're
about
not.
it. Yeah.
There's no way you're going to have to break the bank for him. No
I think
way.
he's looking at like $5-6 million a year. I
Yeah,
think it's
that sounds about right.
And I think he's comfortable here. Obviously, he's playing pretty well, and he's, like you said, very good as a blitzer. I think he has like 4 or 5 sacks. He's good in the run game, and he still struggles in coverage. But now I think he's been better than he was previously in coverage. Like that one play, Kyle. I know you commented on it. I forget what play it was. It was like Tampa 2 coverage, and he covered a guy very well down the field. I forget what play that was. He was versus the Bucks. But what are you laughing at? Is there any reason you're laughing over there?
I'm logging on to Twitter right now because I'm going to see if I can pull it up. But one time I tweeted out a tweet and I said, like, this is the best coverage snap that I've ever seen from Demario Davis, and he retweeted it. And I know he retweets some of your stuff. So like, he's definitely one of those players that's always name searching, and whenever it's something positive, he's going to retweet it.
That's funny. And you listened to the other day when I said Jamal Adams, he retweeted one of my stuff, and he has like 120,000 followers. And then like a couple of seconds or a couple minutes later, I put up a negative play of him, and then he unretweeted. I was like, because that was the late hit where he had the late hit in the end zone versus the Saints, where it's just a dumb play where he could have got flagged for it, and I guess he saw it. And he was like, "Oh, I'm not gonna retweet this piece of shit." So, but moving on to the negatives.
But the thing is like, like Jamal Adams, like he's always like out there tweeting and stuff and saying like, I got to get better. I must get better. I know what I need to do to get better. Like, so he's very like self-critical of himself. You'd think that he would also like, keep up the negative stuff. So let's see. This is the play that I was talking about from Demario Davis. Like, I don't remember seeing Davis doing these types of coverage snaps previously.
Yeah, no, exactly. And he has.
So here, look. I mean, this is straight man coverage. The receiver who releases is that Godwin, Chris Godwin?
I can't tell from that view.
Let's say it's Godwin. I mean, Demario Davis. He starts off. He's right at the line of scrimmage, basically. He
as they would call that, they would call that pre-snap sugaring the A gap.
Okay, so he's sugaring the A gap, and we're talking like, so he's even might be to the right of the center. He drops all the way out, gets right in the hip pocket of the receiver. Receiver crosses, runs a crosser. Davis is there, right in his hip pocket to get the pass deflection.
Which like makes you think like, and on this play, like he's in man and they're sugaring the A gap, which you're sugaring the A gap basically means that you have 2 guys in both A gaps, and you're making it seem like it's going to be a double A gap blitz, and they both drop out into coverage. Or no, actually, well, Lee blitzes, but makes you think like how like every NFL defense has a weakness where if Godwin cuts outward on a breaking route, Demario Davis has no chance here. So like every single defense has weaknesses, every single play. So, but yeah, in terms of just man coverage, matching up on a receiver, whether it be Godwin or whoever is in the NFL, is super, super impressive play from him here. And we've been seeing that more this year but let's be realistic, he does still have struggles in coverage at times. Okay.
But improvements though. So
definitely. So negatives from the offense, we talked about it. Like I said in the beginning of the show, it's hard to evaluate, especially when you have Bryce Petty playing. But 3 for 4 on third down, or 3 for 14 on third down is just terrible. Offensive line. I just switched the view. Do I have another play? The offensive line was still bad. Like they were okay this game, a little bit better than they've been, but they were still not very good. So, and this is another play. People are saying, "Oh, well, Harrison, that play, yeah." And this is it's on the top. It's a counter, I believe. Yeah, it's a counter. And just look at Harrison in the interior of the defensive line.
I think after this play, I tweeted out, what the hell is his first name? Whatever. Jonathan Harrison doing his best Wesley Johnson impression.
Like he comes at him. He's not driving through his legs. He's leaning left hard. Like he's not under his legs at all.
I mean, they're too wide, dude.
Yeah, way too far of a base. If you have a wide base, you're leaning, and you're not driving your feet, you're gonna get trucked. So he gets trucked on the counter, which leads to Bilal Powell getting called from behind. This is where we say if he had just said, better line. Like if he just holds this guy for a quarter of a second, look at Powell's lane. Like, and not saying it's gonna be a huge gain here, but if Powell can make some moves, that's another 10 yards.
You're talking 7 yards, a solid 7-yard gain.
5 to 10 yards, depending on he probably has position on this on this guy out here. If he spins out, so he's probably going to get to the outside. This guy's going to have to take this angle. He's going to come down. So, yeah, you never know, but it's just he gets trucked here. And there's a couple plays where there's another play actually where him and I think it's Dozier on a combo block, and Dozier doesn't give him enough support on the combo block, and Jonathan Harrison misses him and misses I think it's a one tech who's slanting to the left because the Jets are running an outside zone, and Powell just gets tackled in the backfield. They have no chance. So, but okay, let's move on from that. Actually, is there any negatives from the offense you want to bring up? We talked about positives from the offense and defense. I want to give you your chance to talk about the offense if you want. Negatives.
No, I mean, I don't think the offensive line generally was good. I mean, didn't see too much from Robbie in this game, but I don't know how much of that was really attributed to him and how much was on Bryce Petty. But let's see.
Let's talk about Robbie. Because I actually have a play that I wanted to bring up, and this is something that I've been saying a lot on this show too. Is listen, great catching the ball over his head, and I think he's a starting wide receiver, whatever you call it. If you want to call him a 1 or a 2, whatever, an X or a Z. I'm not sure. I think he's more of an X than a Z. A Z is more of a guy who goes in motion, dirty work, crack blocks, shorter type of routes. X is more your guy who threatens deep, post and 9 routes, that type of thing. But I've said it many, many times where I think that he needs to work when he's facing the ball and the ball is coming at him or in traffic. And on this play, we've seen this a couple of times from him this year. This is the most simple of simple plays. It's a slant flat. Petty throws the ball, good timing. I think he throws it in a good area, but you see Robbie Anderson hesitate, and you see him anticipate contact a lot. Where I think Robbie knows if he runs and catches this ball, he's going to get smacked, and he does not like to get smacked. So people blame this on Petty, a bad throw. But if Robbie Anderson keeps running his slant, he catches this ball. So
yeah, and listen, I'm one of the biggest Robbie fans out there. I mean, I think people know that. I've even ventured to say that maybe just maybe, he's the best vertical threat in the league. And I said that with a little caveat to it. I said because you have somebody like Julio Jones or something like that. Although he might be like just as good, if not better than Robbie as a deep threat. I said maybe. I mean, the thing is that Julio as a corner, that he could run anything. So you're preparing for any type of route that he might run. But for Robbie, that his game is just the vertical game. It's the 9 route. So you're prepping for it already in your mind. But the thing is Robbie still wins on those vertical routes, even though the corners know that's what he's going to do. So by that, I said maybe he's the best vertical threat in the league for that reason. I know people will debate me on that, but the thing is I've always maintained is that he's not a complete receiver. And this is one of the reasons why. He's not big. He knows he's scrawny. He knows he's small. These are the type of hits, running a slant like that where you get jacked up over the middle.
Yeah.
And I have to think that Robbie in his 170-ish pound frame.
Dude, I don't know if he's one. I don't know if he's one like – I know he had like 185 or whatever, but you're like 205, 210. I'm 185. I'm
almost I'm like around 220-ish.
Okay, 220-ish. I'm 185 and I'm 6 foot. I don't know if he's 175. I don't know. But yeah, he's
but he's listed as 190, and we're always like, yeah.
There is no way he is 190. And honestly, when I look at his like bench, like when he had like 8 reps or 9 reps, 225. How did he get 9 reps at 225? I have no idea.
He trained for it. Simple as that.
Crazy. He must have been bouncing the bar hard off his chest. But yeah,
I'm surprised he actually got that much. I think Odell got like 4 or something.
I'm surprised he didn't break his chest when he was bouncing it because he's so freaking small. But yeah, working back to the ball, he does drop the ball a good amount, and in traffic he does hesitate. There was a couple games ago where he like threw up a kind of like a one-hander, like ducked his head into his chest type of thing and didn't catch the ball. So he has to work on being more, I guess, tough in traffic. At the same time, I guess he's trying to avoid injury. But in terms of just vertical threats, I think he's one of the best in the NFL. But Julio Jones, if Julio Jones was sent as vertical as much as Robbie Anderson was, I'm taking Julio Jones every day.
I know. It was like hyperbole on my end because Julio can also obviously
throw it up to him.
The ball better. I mean, he's 6'3". I mean, he feels more like I know Robbie's listed as like 6'2" and whatever, almost like 6'3".
He is not 190.
Julio seems like a bigger 6'3". Obviously, he's got the weight on him, and his vertical's much better than Robbie's as well. And he high point's better too. So, yes, I understand that. But just in terms of like cooking people deep, I don't know that there's too many better than Robbie.
He's up there. He's definitely up there.
Side note for a moment. We're talking about the Jets offensive line. Like, as we're talking about, like, Jonathan Harrison getting blown up, it's every week with the Jets, and everybody's talking about, how we really need to draft a center. We really need to get a center. Like, yes, and the guards have been bad too. The whole offensive line's been bad, but especially center. It's just interesting. The Vikings offensive line was so terrible. They got Pat Elflein, and he's one of the reasons why they've transformed their offensive line. And it's just interesting that we had pick 70, and we traded it, and the Vikings then took Elflein there, where we could have taken him. And instead, we traded back and took Ardarius. I hated the trade back in that scenario because I obviously wanted Rivers, who's not played this year because of his torn ACL. I also would have taken Godwin.
I liked Godwin much more too.
Much more than Stewart. The Stewart pick, I don't dislike Stewart, and hopefully that he can be something. But I did not like that pick at all.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. And the Jets need all of the offensive and I'm not going to call out names and stuff like that, but when I saw that tweet the other day that Carpenter is having a Pro Bowl type year, that is the biggest bullshit I've ever seen, man. That's from high up people. That's blue check mark people saying that. Brian Baldinger, and I'll call him out. I'm not going to call the other person out. But Brian Baldinger, the other day, Wesley Johnson's a good center, and the Jets' offensive line is a building block for the future. I'm like, dude, you have hundreds of thousands of followers. People are going to believe you. If you watch any more than 5 minutes of Jets tapes other than picking out a few select plays to point out, you are so wrong, and you're getting paid. You're getting paid. I have 900 followers, and you're saying the Jets have a good offensive line? What's wrong with the world?
And that's why I said at the top of the show, Joe, that you're the best. Because
listen, for you, Kyle, listen too. You have a little bit over 1,000. Like why? And I understand he has more. He has to watch more teams, but how are you going to be that ignorant and that I guess it's like a lack of I don't know. It's not like you're not doing quality work by selecting a few plays and saying Wesley Johnson's a good center.
Quantity over quality.
It's like they're going to have a good player too, but pick out the bad plays and watch the film. That's such an ignorant statement. Like Brian Baldinger.
I mean, listen, there's like what 200-something NFL games a year, and listen, if you're a high up guy like Baldinger, you're probably going to want to watch the better teams better than the worst teams. Like it's exciting to watch a team like the Vikings. It's exciting to watch a team like the Patriots or the Steelers or whatever. Why are you going to want to watch the Jets? So I'm assuming they watch more of those types of games than the Jets games. So they put on 1-2 Jets tapes a year, and if you see a select few plays, like, oh, you could say something like, oh, he's a good center or whatever, but it's really disingenuous, like, when you really think about it. And that's so, in terms of other than maybe people within the Jets building, I don't think there's anybody who's got a better pulse on Jets production than you and how people actually play. But anyway, let's move on.
Okay.
But yeah, I agree with you that's a really asinine thing to say, that Carpenter is still really good, because no, he hasn't been.
And that's a person who is I'm not going to say their name, blue checkmark Jets fan who has a lot of followers and watches a player or two a game, I guess, and says Carpenter is good when Carpenter, and I don't go by Pro Football Focus a lot, but just for, I guess, to kind of put it in perspective, he's like their 64th ranked left or guard. I mean, not just guards in general, but he's been terrible.
One thing I'll say about PFF is when PFF says that somebody's been really, really, really bad within a given season, generally they're not wrong about that.
Yeah.
Like, in order to get a really, 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 really bad grade in their system, you'd have to have many, 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 many bad plays within a year. So
yeah.
Just saying with that. But yeah, I mean, it's annoying because when somebody has like a blue check mark and has all these followers and stuff, they tweet out like a positive play or whatever, and Jets fans just take it as it's gospel.
Which is so false. And a lot of those people, too, will just point out positive things, where a lot of those people who we're talking about, who I'm not mentioning names, will just point out positive things, and that gets the retweets and the follows. But people don't want to see negative stuff. It is what it is. But, yeah.
I mean, like when I point out like Jamal Adams ankle tackling or whatever, I don't want to say guarantee, but like rest assured I'm probably going to get a couple unfollows for something like that.
Or like one like, where if you put a big hit, it's like 30 retweets, 100 likes, like but who cares? But with
yeah, I mean, but seriously, Joe, imagine. I don't want to keep harping on it, but imagine if the only time you ever tweeted out plays of Jamal Adams was a positive play of him, and he always started retweeting. Yo, this is my guy, man. He's hyping me up. So he starts retweeting all your stuff. Imagine how many more followers you'd get from that rather than you criticizing him and stuff.
Thousands. But that's disingenuous, and that's not who we are. And that's why I think you texted me like 2 weeks ago, and I went on that like opening segment rant about what we are and how I'm not going to do that crap. It's true though. I'm never going to do that, regardless of what situation I'm in. Never, ever, 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 ever. Even if I know the guy. Like DeMario Davis, you said that he tweets out like a lot of stuff if it's positive. I'll put out bad plays with DeMario Davis. I'm not afraid to put out DeMario Davis bad plays because he retweets me. Wow, he retweet. Like, who cares?
At least he didn't unretweet you.
This is true. But with the offensive line, just in terms of, I think Carpenter's going to be replaced in a couple of years. Winters, Wesley Johnson. I'm not sure if Shell's a long-term starter. I just don't think he has the athletic ability or power. Beachum, who we thought was going to be terrible, who I put a little bit higher in my top 25, has been the best offensive lineman on this team, in my opinion.
But that's not saying much, though.
This is true. But just to put in perspective how bad Carpenter has been, apparently this Pro Bowl guy, which is just asinine. Moving on to the negatives of the defense, I would say the only negative is, listen, they played pretty well, but you have to look at it that, they only allowed 14 points, but I think many times this game they benefited from a missed Phillip Rivers pass. He missed at least 4, 5, 6 balls this game. So that's the only thing I'm going to say is take it for what it's worth. He did miss a decent amount of throws. And it seems like a couple times this year we've been playing quarterbacks when they've had down games. Missed throws, misreads, Cam Newton, Matt Ryan, Phillip Rivers this game. So moving on, though, anything negative from the defense you want to point out, Kyle, before we move on to special teams and then some other topics?
Let's see, defense. We already talked about Lee. Nah, I think we're good.
So special teams negative. They have been beyond bad. Like opening the year, they were okay, but the coverage units are just terrible. They were saved on that Travis Benjamin 91-yard punt return for a touchdown. Mm-hmm. They got a hold on Hennessy. Hennessy was not going to make that play. He did not have it.
Do you have that play?
I do not have that play.
Okay.
I might be able to.
That's okay. Don't worry about it. I'm just saying, like, if you had it on hand, no need to go and search for it. Okay. But yeah, I totally agree with you. And he's another dangerous returner. But the Jets special teams has been awful for years. And it killed me. Like people they go to training camp practice and, oh man, Brant Boyer's a screamer. I like him.
Oh,
hence,
I hate that, man.
People said the same thing about Bobby April, I think. And anyway, he was so bad his first year with the Jets, and people still decided to give him a second chance this year, and they still would hype up the same things. Oh, he's a screamer. I like his intensity at practice. Doesn't mean he's a good coach. And the Jets have had bad special teams coaches ever since Westhoff left.
Yeah, and I'm actually pulling up the all-22. Like, this is where you watch the film and break it down. I'll pull up to the end zone view. But where is the – okay, yeah. It glitches. Like, you can't pause it in this freaking –
you could slow it. You could slow it.
Yeah, I'll slow it. But that's the hold on Hennessy. He's not making that play. So that's what saves them. The Jets they don't maintain their responsibilities and integrity on how they're running down the field. And it just everybody slants this way, and these guys are all kind of curving, like they're curving around the middle, and he just runs right up the middle.
Where's Hennessy again? Rewind it and point him out.
Right there.
Yeah.
That's the hold. I guess he could have, but I don't think so. But regardless, okay, just bringing up that. So yeah, they've been really bad. Before this game they were averaging 4.7 yards per punt return as well. And Natson in this game got 7 punt returns for 4.3 yard average. He's been beyond bad, running sideways, running backwards. The Jets need to do something at punt return on their punt return team. In terms of positives from the special teams, I think in general this year, I think Edwards and Catanzaro have been solid. Edwards this game, 9 punts for 421 yards, which is 421 yards of punting is crazy in a game. 46.8 yard average, 5 punts inside the 20. Catanzaro, I think, has been decent this year, 23 for 27, where we were pretty low on him. He's been okay. So
he also has at least one missed extra point.
Does he?
No, he doesn't actually. I thought he did.
Yeah, I don't remember. I don't think. Yeah,
no, never mind. He doesn't.
Fake news. #fake news. Kyle Smith. But okay, anything from special teams you want to point out before we get into some other topics? Then we get into our picks of the week.
No.
Okay. We talked about. I had it in here. Talked about Jonathan Harrison. Don't get too high on him because of that one Powell run. He still had a. This is the play I want to share just for Jonathan Harrison, and this is the play I was talking about before. We're not going to go over for too long, but this is an outside zone. You have the 2-eye tech right here, which I think you're going to start going by that terminology, Kyle. He's the 2-eye, and you see Dozier.
Like you said, it's more specific.
It helps out a lot. You can really tell if I say 0, 1, 2-eye, 2, 3, 4-eye, 4. You know exactly where I'm talking about instead of being much more generic. But yeah, so Harrison doesn't have the angle on this 2-eye tech. Dozier doesn't give him enough support in the combo block getting to the second level, which the guard and the center combo block to the play side linebacker is called a joker combo block for those football nerds. He doesn't give enough support. He has interior penetration on an outside zone, and Powell has absolutely no chance to get away from him. So don't get too high on these guys. Now,
good thing Glenn's not here to watch this play.
Yeah, it was bad from Dozier, and then Glenn always comes up with this. Oh well, we don't know exactly what they were trying to do, but when you see the entire line slanting right, you see Austin Seferian-Jenkins trying to pin this guy inside or get outside leverage on him. That's when it's an outside zone. Where if these guys were coming out and trying to kick these guys out, and these guys were blocking a little bit more differently in the inside, then it'd be an inside zone. But yeah, allow interior penetration and then boom, tackle.
I thought about tweeting you in response to this play, but probably when you're running zone concepts, probably the most important position on the offensive line is the center, and this is a really tough block for Harrison. So, like you said, Dozier does need to give him more help here. Much more help. He's getting a little antsy because he wants to try to cut this linebacker off, but you
have to work your way through the levels. If you don't block the first level, there's no point of going to the second level.
Absolutely.
So even if he has to stick on him here and they're going to go into a combo block where they hold him the whole time, it's better than moving off and letting this guy get into the backfield. So yeah, he has no position on this guy, Harrison, in terms of those 2-eye tech. And what happens is what happens. So moving on though.
He didn't put any of his own force into him. His shoulder was there to slow the defensive lineman up for a second or split second, I should say. Yeah. But Dozier didn't actually drive any force into him to actually stop him in his tracks.
He threw a weak stiff arm. Okay, but okay. Now another question with that too is and that's a question with the Jets where if you look at Winter's contract, I don't think that Dozier or Harrison looked much worse than Johnson or Winters have. I guess they kind of been on the same level. I was kind of going a weird direction with that, how I was wording it, but they looked on the same level as Winters and as Johnson, which has to make you worry about Winters next year because if you look at his contract, he's an $8 million hit this year, $7 million in 2018, which is fully guaranteed. So if you get rid of him, you $7 million in dead cap that you're going to give him. That just goes down the drain. And then in 2019 is when you can cut him. So obviously it looks like the decision to move forward with Winters and give him a decent-sized contract and to move forward with Wesley Johnson after Nick Mangold were both pretty bad decisions.
Yeah. I regret that conversation that we had, private conversation that we had about right after the Winters contract. You broke the news to me. And you're like, are you cool with this? I'm like, yeah, I guess so. But I actually never really been really high on Winters, but I kind of said it because, he did have his best year of his career, and I thought that he was on the upswing, but still didn't think that he was good. But clearly he is not good, and I wish that he was not on the roster, but there's nothing we can do about it at this point.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to want to trade for him.
The Jets have 0+ starters on their offensive line. Winters is going to go eventually. Carpenter's going to go in the next couple of years. Wesley Johnson's gone. Beecham is okay. I'll call him average. Brandon Shell has some traits, but I don't think he's a long-term starter at right tackle, which I've heard some people with the blue check mark saying, hey, Brandon Shell is a long-term starter on the Jets. Show me the tape that you're talking about, buddy. But moving on.
That's another ridiculous statement. Yeah. Moving on.
Same person, too.
I would try to trade Darron Lee. that was popping into my head earlier in the show when we were talking about him. I think you see enough raw talent that somebody might think that they could do something with him.
Yeah.
And if you can get maybe like a second, third rounder for him, which, God, if you can get a second, sign me up right now. But I would try to trade him, especially if, like it's McCagnon's guy. So McCagnon's probably not going anywhere, but will Bowles go somewhere? I don't know. I would still try to trade something for him because we were talking about like whether or not they should pick up the 5th-year option on him, and obviously we're a ways away from that. But I just can't ever see him developing into like a plus starter. So I feel like you could still get something for now while he's young and has multiple years on his contract. I would try to pull the trigger with that because I feel like you could put in other linebackers and they'll do it like at least an equitable job to him. Yeah,
no, I agree. I think the best he's going to be is a mediocre type starter. So I'll be fine. You want to trade a second or third for him? I'm completely fine with that. You could sign a guy in free agency who'd be better. Who's probably relatively young, like Zach Brown or one of those guys who's available who the Jets just didn't sign, or Gerald Hodges, I think would be better than Lee.
Dude, I really wanted a couple years ago in free agents, and they actually didn't even go for a lot of money. Those 2 Bears linebackers, Trevathan and the other guy that they had from the Colts. I wanted one of those 2 guys. I like Trevathan. I think is the other dude the linebacker? Is it the white dude you're talking about? He's on the he's black too. He used to be with the Colts a couple of years back. Who was that linebacker from the Bears who went from the Bears to the Patriots? The white dude. You're talking about
people signed him, but
Shane? No, why is this slipping my mind? He was a first round draft pick from Boise State. Shane something. I don't know why I can't think of his name, but I don't like him though.
I didn't like him. Like someone to see because
I don't know why I can't think of it. We're gonna feel so stupid.
Well, I don't. Oh, I'm not so. Well, yeah, whatever. But okay, so let's move on to the other topics as I list them. The Jets tank watch. Jets are now at the 7th pick. If the only way they can get to 5, the best pick they can get is 5. I think they can get to the 9th or 10th pick if they win, which I don't think they're winning. In Foxborough versus a team who's playing for home field advantage in the Patriots, it's not happening. So let's chalk it up as a loss. Now the Jets are going to lose. They can get to 5 now if Tampa, the 4-11 Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who have I guess it's a better or harder strength of schedule than the Jets over the year, if they win versus New Orleans in Tampa, which I don't think is going to happen. And then also the Broncos, who are 5-11 versus the Chiefs at home. So
here we go right here. So, I mean, so we're at 7 right now.
Yeah.
So I don't know why we're getting the nod on strength of schedule over San Francisco.
I don't know. I guess because the teams are in different conferences.
Oh, it's a coin toss. Anyway, so San Fran, I guess that could go either way because I don't know if the strength of schedule is going to change based on all the wins and losses. It's so close to the point where theoretically, if we both have 5 wins, we could be picking lower than San Francisco. Chicago, there's no way that we're going to pick lower than them unless we win. But anyway, Denver, their strength of schedule is much lower than us. So the only way that we'll pick over them is if they win.
Yep.
And who are they playing again?
They're playing the Chiefs in Mile High.
Chiefs in Mile High. So they could win that game. Tampa Bay, and Tampa's got who, New Orleans?
In Tampa.
In Tampa. And see, their strength of schedule is, again, they have a much harder strength of schedule than us. So if they do win and we lose, which we are going to lose, we will pick higher than Tampa.
Yes, and for the people listening, the harder strength of schedule you have actually goes against you in terms of draft positioning. So if the Chiefs or if the Tampa Bay is at 5-5 and the Jets are at 5-2, it's basically the Jets played weaker teams and they're worse, so they deserve a higher pick because they're the worst team. So that's basically what it is. I don't see Tampa winning, but Denver, I can see them beating the Chiefs because the Chiefs are inconsistent, especially on the road. So the Jets are either going to be probably anywhere from 8-5, probably anywhere from 8-6. I'm hoping for Denver to win. Jets are probably can be that 6th pick, I hope. So we'll see. And San Francisco is playing who this week because Jimmy Garoppolo has been fantastic for them this year. But
I know, what a trade, right? The Rams.
Hey, yeah, I don't think they're winning that. Oh well, then again, I believe
they could win that.
No, from what I've heard, I believe they're benching Goff this game.
How about that, man? So that's a big downgrade for them. And listen, Jimmy G, they're on a 4-game win streak. So
Shows
They're
you how much
riding
a
high with
quarterback matters,
momentum.
Kyle.
They have nothing to lose. Oh, and by the way, Ben Blessington, he tried to say that he's more spot on his takes than I've been over the years, and he tried getting on me about Goff. Oh, well, Kyle, weren't you really high on Jared Goff? He said this to me in the preseason. Yeah, who's laughing now? Look at Jared Goff now, man.
Yeah,
because I was that offseason, I was like, trade Wilkerson, use him. You're talking like he's a first round value. Trade him and other things as a ploy to move up to get Goff. I'm not saying that it would have happened or whatever, or whoever would have done it, but that's what I wanted to try to do.
Yeah, and I can, I'm not afraid of not only admitting when I'm wrong, especially when I say it on a podcast where it's recorded, but I'll say stuff that I didn't say on air. And I don't think Goff was going to be that good. I wasn't high on him really or Wentz, and they both turned out to be really good quarterbacks. And that shows you how much coaching matters. Well, a quarterback is going to be good regardless of the coaching is one of the most asinine statements I've ever heard. And yeah, the Rams got more talent this year, but look at the difference in Goff and his decision making from Jeff Fisher to Sean McVay. So And obviously it's the second year he grew, but people say that coaching doesn't matter for a young quarterback is beyond stupid. So if anybody says that to you, just every other opinion that it doesn't matter. But okay, so yeah, we went over that. So hopefully the Jets get to 6 or 5. Other news: the Jets
5, baby. When's the last time the Jets had a top 5 pick?
Geez, I don't know. Because even D. Milner was what?
DeBrickashaw Ferguson,
6th.
D. Milner was the 9th overall pick.
9th, okay, and then
Shaw was 4th overall.
Okay, so is Brick then? What, 2007? Yeah.
And before that, Dwayne Robertson was 4th overall. And
the
Jets had to trade up to get that.
I wasn't watching the draft when Dwayne Robertson was. I was 8 years old, 9 years old.
We've had that 6th pick so many times. You're talking
Vernon Gholston, right?
Leo, Vernon Gholston, and Jamal.
Vernon Gholston. Oh man. But yeah, I'll take the 6th pick. The Jets have had some good success with that pick, but obviously,
I'll be happy to 6. But if we can get 5, oh man, that's a nice New Year's gift.
Yeah, I think they finish at 6, but we'll see. Actually, probably 7. Honestly, I think if I had to bet, Kansas City probably goes in and beats Denver. But okay, moving on. The Jets put Winters on IR. They activate Deion Simon. Not too much really news there. Dozier's look just as good as Winters when he is in the game. Deion Simon's the guy who's going to play in a reserve role, but at this point, people who are saying, cut Mike Pennel, Deion Simon's really, really, really good from whatever player or two you saw that you.
People are saying that? Good. Who said that?
Dude, there was people making Deion Simon shirts.
But you're not talking as of recent though, right?
No, not as recent, but it still kind of holds over because he hasn't really played this year. So I'm pretty sure people's opinions on him are very high. Where people were still, even a couple of weeks ago, saying to get rid of Pennel and where is Deion Simon? Pennel is much better than Deion Simon.
I could see people saying that about Pennel after the Cam Newton penalty,
which blew. You listened to the dude. That was beyond dumb.
It was, but I mean, listen. What does he do within the structure of a play? That's something you can correct.
Yeah,
he just has to control himself. Take some anger management classes or something. Start watching Tony Robbins videos or something.
There was a play actually versus the Saints where a guy he fell into his ankles or his legs, and then he got another penalty for unnecessary roughness or whatever, where he shoved the offensive lineman into the ground because he got angry. Last topic, unless you have another one, Kyle, before we get into the picks, since we've done almost a 3-hour show, which is
no.
Very fun. Okay, so the last topic, Leonard Williams in this game, 0 tackles. He had that really one nice play where you commented on it, where he had that double swipe move to get inside interior pressure on Phillip Rivers. But I think overall, from what I've seen this season, I think he's been good. Now, do I think he's been the Leonard Williams that I'm super high on Leonard Williams. I think he's going to be an all-pro type of player. This year, he's definitely, in my opinion, had a disappointing season. So I just wanted to get your thoughts on him, because I've heard the argument of, and it's the easy thing to say, well, he's been facing triple teams, and I said it last week. I've never seen a triple team in the NFL ever.
Unless it's a double by the guard and the tackle, and then the receiver
yes.
gives a crack block as well, but it's rare.
Yes.
It's very rare.
But even if it's a combo block, so there's a difference between a double team, which in a double team it means, okay, you're sending 2 guys to block this guy the whole time.
The whole time, and you're trying to drive his butt into the ground. Combo is, all right, one guy chips and then he's getting to the second level.
Yes, exactly. If we're blocking a defensive lineman, I'm trying to help you get whatever leverage we want you to have, and then I move on to the second level. So that people say double team a lot for combo blocks, it's not the same thing. So I've seen triple teams where they actually all go to block the same guy on a play. Never in my life. Now maybe it's a combo block. The guy who's getting combo block is scraping over the top and he runs into another guy who throws an arm into him. Yeah, okay, he got hit by 3 guys, but triple teams in the NFL do not happen. So don't say he's been triple teamed because that's never happened the entire season. But what are your thoughts?
I think my thoughts are pretty much generally what your thoughts are. I mean, listen, you said like he's going to be an all-pro player. He pretty much is that right now. I mean, maybe not this year, but like you look at the way he played last year. I mean, I think you'd be pretty hard pressed to say like he's not like all-pro level last year. He's shown that ability, but the thing is he was many people's consensus #1 overall pick when we drafted him, when we got him at 6. And he's been good every year, and he's the best player, like you could pretty much say by far on our team. So we have this different level of expectation of what we want for him. And the thing is, and this is really the big thing for me, because the NFL is a passing game, teams are passing, 60-ish% of the time or high 50% of the time. It's a passing league. You need to get to the quarterback more. And Leo, if he really wants to be like an elite level player, he needs to step up his pass rush game, get to the quarterback more. And while he's been really solid in the run, he wins in the pass game. He gets quarterback hits, he gets quarterback pressures. You still want to see more of that from him. So I love Leo, and he's a damn good player. I was going through some of your New Orleans film with him this morning, and damn, he made some impressive plays in that game too. But he still needs to refine some of his pass rush stuff for me to really say like, okay, he's an elite level player. But he's been good. But yeah, people, you can't hide behind the excuse, well, he's been getting triple team. That's nonsense.
It's never happened. Even double teams. People say double teamed a lot. People, equivalate. I don't know if I said that word right or even used it right.
What did you say?
I'm not even going to repeat it.
I'm like, what is he saying?
I might have just made up a word. I feel like Stephen A. Smith does that a lot when I used to listen to him, even though he's just not a good radio host.
He's a hype man.
Yeah, but double team.
Sensationalist.
Double team versus a combo block is completely different. Combo block, like I said, I'm helping one of the offensive linemen is helping the other offensive lineman get leverage on a guy until he can work off to the second level, or until a guy from the second level threatens the first level, then he'll break off of it. But double teams where 2 guys are assigned to block a guy rarely happens. It's rare, but triple teams, I've never seen it ever in my life. So Kyle, you said you don't have any other topics. You want to move on to the picks and then close the show out?
Yes.
Okay. Glenn is going to text me his pick. Last night I was not texting him and what are your picks for this week? I sent him the games. He didn't get me back yet, but I will get his games before Sunday because we're in a tight race here. Last week I went 5-0. Glenn went 5-0. We both picked the Chargers, who won 14-7 versus the Jets. We both picked the Chiefs, who beat the Dolphins 29-13. We both picked the Saints, who beat the Falcons 23-13. We both picked the Patriots, who beat the Bills 37-16, and we both picked the Rams, who beat the Titans 27-23. Both going 5-0, bringing our records to 49-26 and 48-27. We want to get to that double wins than losses. We're pretty close. We have a couple weeks to do it with playoffs, so you need to have another good week. This week, Kyle, same thing as we always do. Sunday at 1 o'clock, the 5-10 Jets at the 12-3 Patriots. Give me a little, synopsis, score prediction, that type of thing.
Oh, this is going to be a blowout. You thought it was bad last year on Christmas Eve when the Jets went up to Foxborough. It's going to be maybe just as bad this year. It's hard to get much worse. But Hackenberg might be starting this week. Connor Hughes said, read between the lines. The only time that Hackenberg's gotten reps all year is this week. And Bowles said, we'll see, when he was asked about Hackenberg. Listen, if the preseason is any judge as to who's better between Hack and Petty, we all know Petty's been god-awful, but who was much worse in the preseason? Hack was much worse. And if that's any type of continuation, Hack is going to be worse. We're talking one thing about Petty is it's not like he's been throwing 3-4 pick games over these last couple starts. He just hasn't been able to operate. Hack, we're seeing like he doesn't even know how to, see a blitzer coming off the edge or whatever. Is he going to be able to call out a protection? Is he going to throw one of those boneheaded?
Like Bill Belichick.
Is he going to throw one of those boneheaded interceptions or fumble like he does before? I mean, we could see multiple turnovers. And Belichick will tell you this, the most important thing that decides games is turnovers. So I could see a lot more turnovers if Hack starts versus Petty. There's no single area of the game where the Jets are better than the Patriots. Not one. So, it's in Foxborough. The Patriots, not only the great home team, but especially in the second half of the season, the Patriots are playing for home field advantage. Just look at over recent years. The Patriots had the 2 seed in 2015. Denver had the 1 seed. Denver was home. Denver wins the playoff game. If that game's in Foxborough, I guarantee the Patriots win that game. Patriots go on to the Super Bowl, win the Super Bowl. They know that having that 1 seed is much more important. They don't want to go to Pittsburgh again. They almost lost in Pittsburgh. They want to have the Steelers come to Foxborough. So they're playing for a lot. They're going to beat the Jets. I'm going to say 37-7.
Don't say it.
7.
Oh, man. You almost said my exact score. Yeah, there's not really much I can put on that. It's just Bill Belichick with his schemes and the different things he does. I don't think the Jets stand a chance with Petty or Hackenberg playing in Foxborough, Week 17, when the Patriots need home field advantage. There's no freaking way that the Jets are going to win this game. And I'm going to say 37-10. I thought you were going to say 10. I was like, wow. But I actually got Glenn's picks too. I just messaged him again. I was like, listen, give me your freaking picks. So Glenn is picking the Patriots as well, which is a smart decision here. Moving on to the next game. There's a couple good games this week, I guess. I kind of did it more for like playoff implications type of thing. Sunday at 4:00, and there's no Saturday game this week. There's no Thursday game this week. There's no Monday night game this week because of New Year's Eve. But next game Sunday at 4:00, the 11-4 Panthers at the 9-6 Falcons. And the Falcons are, I believe, they're playing for the last wild card spot with the Seahawks. So if the Seahawks win and they lose, they're out. If they win, they're in. So
I feel like the Panthers are a better team, and if it was in Carolina, I would definitely say Carolina. I'm gonna go with the Falcons just because I think they're playing for a little bit more, and they are at home, and traditionally they are a very good home team. I won't be shocked if the Panthers win.
Yeah, this one was tough for me just because the Falcons are so freaking inconsistent this year, even though they have a decent record, but still inconsistent. Like when the Jets played them, the Jets should have almost won that game. The Jets are a bad team, obviously. But yeah, I'm going with the Falcons as well, just because, like you said, they're playing for a playoff spot. And if you lose, you're going home. If the Seahawks win, I think they'll come out with more energy, especially at home in front of their home fans. Next game Sunday at 4:00.
We better be rooting for the Falcons, by the way. Falcons win, Seahawks got no chance, and we want the Seahawks to not make the playoffs.
Yeah, no, that's very, very true. Maybe I should do reverse psychology then and pick the Panthers. Nah, I'm not doing it. So next game Sunday at 4:00, the 6-9 Bengals at the 9-6 Ravens. Now the Ravens are in the 5th wild card spot. There's 3 8-7 teams behind them, so I'm not sure on the exact scenarios. But I know if they lose and another team or two wins, they're out of the playoffs. So the Ravens are playing for the playoff spot. When they're in, if they lose, a couple of things have to happen. They're out of the playoffs. So
I'm going to say the Ravens. Brett Coleman did an excellent film breakdown right after week 1, which was the last time these teams played this year. And the Ravens just stifled Dalton. He didn't know what to expect. I think they match up well against the Bengals. The Bengals are just not a good team anymore. They don't have a good offensive line anymore. They lost their skill positions at receivers. And just as many people said, although Dalton is, he's not a bad quarterback. He's not bad, but he's certainly not good either. But when he doesn't have all that help around him, I mean, it's just – and he doesn't have a good offensive coordinator anymore. It's going to be too hard for him. And the Ravens are hot right now, man. So go the Ravens all the way in this one. I think they'll win handily.
Yeah, me too. I think it's a game where C.J. Mosley had like a pick 6 over the middle where Dalton just didn't see him. And Dalton's been worse than other years this year, and maybe that's kind of highlighted more by the lack of talent that he has. But yeah, he's a below average to average type quarterback, and that 17 to 21 type of range, I would say. But yeah, I'm taking the Ravens as well. They're playing for playoffs. The Bengals are just not that good of a team at all this year. Next game, Kyle. How many times have I said next game, Glenn? But the next, and that's why Glenn is actually picking the Ravens as well. So we're all picking the Pats, Falcons, Ravens as of right now. Next game, Sunday at 4.
Sunday at 4. Okay, go ahead.
What is this one?
Oh, this is what I was talking about, the film breakdown. But go ahead.
Yeah. So, this is the CJ Mosley pick.
Yeah, but just go ahead. We'll just have this playing in the background.
Okay, so yeah, the next game is the Sunday at 4, 8-7 Bills at the 6-9 Dolphins. I did this one specifically for playoffs and because you're the AFC East bro or the former AFC East bro. The Bills are fighting for the wild card right now. Like I said, if the Ravens lose, the Bills, I'm not sure the exact scenarios, but if they win, they have a much better chance of getting into the playoffs. So that's still a possibility for them. Playing at the 6-9 Dolphins in Miami. So, what are your thoughts on that?
I like the Bills. I know the Dolphins are a much better home team. They're like 11-4 under Adam Gase at home. People were saying for a long time that they think Miami could be a good home field advantage if Miami ever got like some type of coach and ever just got some type of like persona. And it seems like maybe they have that now. And part of it is like, it's really hot in Miami. And some people have speculated, well, they redid Miami Stadium when they renamed it Hard Rock. And on the home side, there's actually more shade than there is on the opposing team's side. So you think about it, like the bench players, they're getting more heat. And they said like actually the stadium's like 5 degrees hotter on the away side.
Yeah.
So, I mean, obviously Miami's used to practicing the heat. So Miami's much better at home I don't know how much that plays into it. Maybe it does. So I'm just thinking about it. And, part of me wants to pick Miami because they're at home. But Buffalo beat the crap out of them last time. Jay Cutler is just so bad.
He is so bad.
I mean, I'm pretty sure he's going to get the start, not more. I'm going to go with the Bills.
Yeah, that's Kyle's take, or not Kyle. Glenn is taking the Bills as well. And I can see them building, Hard Rock Stadium for those advantages and making that into their plans to make the sun beat down on the away team. Why not? Just like how the freaking Seahawks built it with their stadium with metal bleachers in the end zones to make it louder and, the top caves over so it reflects the sound back down to the field. So
that's awesome, man. I wish MetLife. I would love to go to more games if we had like a stadium environment like that.
Can you imagine if Kansas City fans were in that stadium in Kansas City, how loud that place would be? Like, Seahawks fans are loud, but they're not as loud as KC. KC's stadium is not built for sound like they are. Jets stadium isn't either.
My dad went to the stadium last year in KC. He went to Arrowhead.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I thought about going there this year, but or last year, I think, and I did, and I went to Vegas instead, which is obviously a good time. But even the old Jet stadium was a little bit more caved in, so it was a little bit more loud. It was more of a bowl, where the stadium now is more open, so it actually lets the sound go out, so the stadium isn't as loud, and that doesn't help that the fans aren't going because they kicked all the diehards out with all the PSLs and all that crap. But
and we used, speaking of stadiums, just for a moment, like we were just talking about Miami Stadium. By the way, kudos to Stephen Ross. He paid for all with his own money. He didn't use taxpayer money to fund a stadium.
Well, credit to what's the owner of the Falcons right now? Who's like making hot dogs like $3 and beers $5 and waters.
Arthur Blank.
Yeah, like why can't the Jets do that? Like there's so many more people would buy food. I know people who sneak food in.
I don't know, man. The Jets aren't doing a lot of things right, and it goes beyond the field.
Yeah, exactly. The organization is poorly run in many ways. But okay, yeah, I'm going the Dolphins. The Bills, they beat them 24-16 in Buffalo. The score was closer than the game really was, I believe, as well. But rarely, unless like the teams are much different in terms of talent, but usually you see splits of division games, especially home and away. The home team, the Bills, will win in Buffalo, then lose on the road. The Dolphins are trying to play spoiler to the Bills, trying to get into the playoffs right now. So I'm going to take the Dolphins in Miami. Bills have been playing in cold weather for a couple of weeks in Buffalo, are used to the cold, and they go up to Miami where it's going to be relatively hot. So I'm going to take Miami here. Can't pick all the same games because I think we're all going to pick the next same game. which is the 10-5 Jaguars at the 8-7 Titans. The Titans are also 8-7, fighting for that last wild card spot, with the Bills and the Chargers at 8-7 behind them. So the Titans are actually in that 7th spot right now, fighting for that 6th or 5th spot.
Wait, can you say what's the game again?
10-5 Jags in Tennessee versus the 8-7 Titans.
See, I don't think the Titans are as good as their record says.
I agree.
Really don't.
Yeah.
And we talked about this before. I'm gonna go with Jacksonville. The defense is, and it has nothing to do with Bortles. I don't think they have a great offensive line, maybe okay at best, but I think Fournette's listen, they got the recipe by drafting Fournette to put him behind that defense and finally having like at least a decent head coach. It's done wonders for them. But that defense is impressive. You're just talking, there's talent all levels of that defense. You got the elite corner in Ramsey. You got another solid corner in Boye. You got a solid safety play. Your linebackers, I love those linebackers. Loved Miles Jack. Wanted him at pick 20 over Darron Lee. I know Telvin Smith misses a good amount of tackles. But he's a fun player to watch because he's all over the field. Yes. And that defensive line, man, was stacked. And then they got Marcel Darius, and you're putting Marcel Darius back in the system where he thrives. He's not a 3-4 nose guy.
What do they got? They have Campbell, Darius, and the guy they got
Yannick Ngakoue.
Yeah,
I love him as a pass rusher. You also have the former 3rd overall pick Dante Fowler, who's finally stepping up. So
yeah.
And then
I liked him a lot coming out of Florida, a lot.
And even like Alu, I think he's still down in Jacksonville. Like, I'm not saying he's good or he ever lived up to the 10th overall pick, but that's a solid player there, and he's just a role player at this point in time.
So then you have Calais Campbell
and he's an All-Pro.
And then you have Darius, and then don't they still have Malik Jackson? Didn't he sign there?
That's the one I'm forgetting about, Malik Jackson. So you're talking, that is the most stacked defensive line in the NFL.
With the best 1-2 corner combo probably in the NFL.
And they have, and the thing about it too is they have versatility. See, the Jets, even though like we liked the Jets defensive line, they didn't really have versatility because they're mostly like guys who really thrive in like a 3 technique type of role. But you're talking, you have pure edge rushers in Jacksonville and Fowler and Ngakoue. But Calais Campbell, you can slide him all up and down in the offensive line. Darius, you could put him as a pure nose, but he's better as like a 3 technique penetrator in a 4-3. And then Malik Jackson, same thing with him. So you're talking, you have versatility. You have guys that do different things along that defensive line.
There's 5 guys who are like almost like pro ball level on the defensive line, plus the best 1-2 corner combo in the NFL, in my opinion. And then on top of that, you have –
and even Puzzlesny, we got on him, but like, Eric Turner kind of like – he's not a bad linebacker.
No, my argument always was people will say Puzzlesny is like a top 5 linebacker. I think he's a decent linebacker. So they have a decent linebacker with Smith, with Miles Jack, with that defensive line, with their corners. And then on top of that, you have one of the –
Puzzlesny's certainly better than Darron Lee. I'll tell you that.
That is true. And
not even close.
And then you have a top, 10 running back, top 5, some can argue. Maybe I would say top 5, and Leonard Fournette right now to support, that offense. It's just it's crazy how good.
Like, even though Bortles is so bad, they could make a playoff run like the Jets did in the 09-10 years. You're talking, they got the recipe, right? The strong running game and the solid defense.
Fantastic. Like
Dak Mask's bad quarterback play.
Maybe I don't think the defense is living up to their potential. I think the defense can be better than they are. If you just look at the individual positions on paper, like they have potential to be number 1 for years to come. But okay, yeah, moving on. So with that conversation, we're all taking the Jaguars. That's pretty obvious. So we all picked the Pats. We all picked the Falcons. We all picked the Ravens. You and Glenn both picked the Bills. I picked the Dolphins in Miami, and we all picked the Jaguars on the road in Tennessee. Kyle, any closing thoughts?
No, I just had a lot of fun, and thank you for having me.
Yeah, no, it's definitely fun. We have to get you on more as either with just me or with me, you, and Glenn. probably in the off season where we have to spread out topics we can get you on so we can have 3, opinions to spread it out a little bit more, like I said. Thank you everybody for listening. Find us on YouTube. You just go to JetNation and then hit subscribe. The videos will pop up for you instantly. When we put them out, write us a review, please. We talked about it before. It really, really does matter. If you don't write a review, at least leave us a 5-star rating. You go to the podcast app, you type in JetNation, you hit our link, and you hit 5 stars, and that's it. That's all you have to do. So do that. Thank you to our sponsor, OddsShark. Check out the JetNation.com forums. Great content up there as always. So I think that's it. We will be back next Wednesday night at 6 p.m. We appreciate everybody for listening.